Hey everybody, this is your good friend Dr. David Proden from down here in the North Star recording studio. This is an impromptu Safety Doc podcast 138. Everything's kind of gone crazy right now. It is the Burning Down of America episode right now with our good friend Bacon Maldito returning from the greater Washington area where things are just as crazy as they are right here outside of Madison, Wisconsin. It's insane. Hey Bacon, how are you doing, buddy?
Well, I'll tell you what. I managed to escape the Socialist Super Hub before the National Guard ended up getting sent in. You want to guess what I ended up escaping with?
Pizza and a meatball sub.
Oh, damn. Pretty good. How'd you know?
Really?
Only thing you missed was the
pizza,
bottom of the line.
I would think pizza, and what is it? Okay, wow, all right.
We'll talk about that coming up.
Hey, Juan Cabrera's in the chat, and I also see our good friend Nick. Oh, wow. So hey, I just saw an article come up, kind of scanning through Drudge and some other things, like stuff I'm not banned on apparently. And what? I'll tell you that story in just a little bit here, but Target is shutting down some of its stores because of protest and for the safety of their staff and just the security of their stores. They're shutting a number of Target stores down effective immediately. What the hell?
Oh, huh? Jesus.
Where's Aaron Clary going to get his short sleeve suits?
You know,
that was supposed to be funny. That's supposed to be funny.
Or whatever the hell else he ends up going to go get.
That guy keeps 1 day supply of toothpaste. That's the way he is. So, yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's great. So, man, tell me what's happening where you're at.
All right. Well, first, can I play you something real quick?
I think so. You've got access to the controls here.
No, it's I'm on a different device, so here is the today's theme song. We'll quiz you. Let's see if you recognize it.
Don't get us flagged. Don't get us kicked off of YouTube.
No, it won't be that long. It won't be that long. And then we end up getting kicked off anyways. Here we go.
Wow, that's fidelity.
Hey, $16 mic. Oh, wait, we're getting there. Hang on a second.
Wow.
We're gonna die. Wow. That was today's theme song, man.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure you can guess why.
I only play a second of it. He played the entire 4 minutes and 31 seconds. But no, man.
I think that's enough to get the point across.
No, I got it. Yeah. So anybody out there?
Right, hang on.
Juan, Nick, anybody out there listening, if you can share it out on your social media platforms that we have gone live. I was taken off of Twitter tonight because I was posting questioning some practices that were going on in Madison with media coverage and the riots.
How dare you do that?
And yeah, no vulgarity, nobody by name, anything like that, gone. So and
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so my social media is pretty much done for a while, I guess. I don't know what the time frame is, but anyway, yeah, it's really so one thing I want to talk about too, Bacon, once we get face validity from where you're at and where I'm at, but we're in this 1-2 punch right now of chaos, right? We had the coronavirus in the middle of March. It hit everybody, shut everything down, put us out in chaos. And people kind of came back in the last couple of weeks to things opening up. And now it's a different chaos. It's a second hit to everybody. And psychologically, like that's really dangerous to have this close proximity within 90 days, 2 significant psychological civil unrest events happen that are different in the country. And there's something I talked about called finite voltage, which is a term. I don't know what happened right there. I didn't.
What's just happened here?
Did you see my video? Did you see my video? There's like an image that just came up on my face. It was like a smiley face. My hands are not on the keyboard. I have nothing.
No.
So somebody's hacked. A third party's hacked in here. I'm probably going to be a talking.
The National Guard has hacked your show.
I'll be a talking banana here in about a minute. So this whole thing, finite voltage, I think people are really on the cusp of cracking now. But I'm gonna be quiet a little bit. Tell me what's happening in your world. You know, what's happening with work. I'm assuming like they told you shut everything down, stay home. What are you seeing outside your doors? What's popping across your media, buzzing on your phone? Hey, does Nick want to get in? Just wait, Nick wants to get in.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, he asked if there was room for one more in the stream. Can you send him the link? So.
Yeah, Nick, I'm.
Yeah, hang on a second. You sent it.
Oh, God damn it!
Just send it to me on Twitter, real quick.
I'm not on Twitter. I got banned. I'm not there.
Oh, that's right. Jesus Christ.
So, yeah, just a second here, Nick, if you've got access to your email.
Hang on, I might leave the chat, but I'll be back. Hang on.
All right, just Nick, hang on. We're gonna boost this up a little bit here. Sent. Yeah, this is all right. Here we go. Nick, it's coming your way here in just a second.
Are you sending it to him?
Yeah, on his on your Gmail account, Nick. Check your Gmail and I'll let you in. So yeah, that'd be great. So Nick, I just said, hey, Conk, man, Conk was in the Ferguson protest riots years ago. Holy smokes, man! I didn't know
no
that.
Kidding.
Yeah, Conk, thanks for being in. I got it. Yeah, I saw your post, Bacon, on show 137 with Juan. Juan was a wonderful guest, by the way. And I was trying to do that mic thing, and then I got the echo with the speaker. I need your help sometime in that. I still don't have that. I hear everything like I thought was perfect for that show.
You need my help. Jesus. That's how we know we're fucked.
And I'm getting like this weird, like, you know, I just don't want that. You got a guest like Juan on. You got to be professional. You know, I want a good setup. I got a great guest, and then suddenly, you know, that I cut that out on the audio part when I edited it, so that the audio is a little more trim because of my gaffes are removed from there. So, all right, all right.
Hang on, I think I should be able to send it on my end. Hang on a second.
All right, so I sent it to Nick. Nick, I'm not seeing you in the and Juan, you're also let me know if you want in in tonight's show. Tell us what's happening in San Fran right now. I'm getting my hair cut on Monday. 3 months worth of growth cut. I don't know how I feel about it because I kind of like the long hair, but at the same time, not really in summer. So Doc, how did you get banned? Your profile's still there. Yeah, Juan, I can't log in. And Bacon checked and found my profile too. So what I did is I was posting, I objectively was critical of the Madison news. They sent young reporters, out and they were interviewing them. Like, this must be like the biggest thing since, you graduated 2 years ago. And they're sending them right into the midst of an active riot situation, looting happening, things like that. And then the guy is saying in the studio, well, you don't, use your judgment. Well, that's garbage, right? You don't put people up in harm's way. So after that, I was gone. Those posts aren't anywhere to be found for people who have looked for me on Twitter. it kind of just ended, like all of my stuff. And then I got logged out, and then I'm unable to log back in, but apparently my account still exists. So
wait a minute, hang on. Sorry to interrupt you, but let me get this straight. We had, and by the way, I got a story about that coming up. I saw some of that, not personally, but it was on the media. You put up that maybe you shouldn't be bringing kids to riots or protests or whatever the hell they want to call them, and you got kicked out for that?
Oh, I didn't put kids. No, I mean, these were reporters for the news station, but they were literally like maybe, 22, 23 years old. This was one of their first assignments. So, they're out there and they're just terrified and a veteran reporter of, 40 years is back at the studio. And I'm saying they shouldn't have had anybody out there. It's too dangerous. And these young reporters, they were putting them in harm's way. This was an active situation where glass was shattering. The one reporter picked up a leather handbag that had fallen out of the store that was being looted. She picked it up as looters ran past her. So she could have easily been, beat up. One of the guys, I think, somebody went after him and then they cut away. But I was just posting, this was really irresponsible for the TV media, basically saying, we can be down here, but don't you come down here, right? And they're putting their own people in harm's way too close. As a safety guy, I'm looking at this objectively. I'm saying, this is way too close. This is too dangerous. I mean, you have drones, you have other capability. They had to get information. You could have stayed back a little bit, but they were sending their young reporters right into the midst of a very unstable situation. And I got booted for that. I'm gone. Hey, Nick, I see you. Hang in there just a second. We just brought Nick Schulander in from Washington, so we've got Washington covered pretty darn well. If you haven't smashed that like button, do it, because nobody else is going to.
Hang on, I'm going to do that myself.
Everybody is against the doc right now. Everybody hates the doc because of the truth.
Back up, Doc.
Except Nick and Bacon. I'm just really I knew I could see a couple of people responding to it, and by the way they're responding and kind of like their profile stuff quickly, I'm like, I'm probably going to get reported and off. But again, not threatening, not people's first names, nothing like that, objective, and I'm gone. But it is nuts. I have people in Madison, friends of mine, who have been texting me images of what's happening. Little videos are taking outside things. So it is a rapidly deteriorating situation. Squad cars burning up, buildings burning up. I guess, which isn't that uncommon compared to a lot of areas. I thought tonight would be the flashpoints. So how about you guys? What's happening?
I just got out of all of that. Doc, by the way, can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Bro.
You're coming in loud and clear, Nick.
Yeah.
Nick is. Yeah. Oh, no one. But yeah, okay.
But funny story. Today, as you can see, I am back at my HQ on the better half of Washington. And I picked, parents helped me get back here. I'm just like, we had to pick today. So right as all this was going down, we're just going away from it.
Holy smokes.
Parents are hanging out with me in the other room. They're just watching the news. Pretty much just watching everything burn.
Talk about watching it burn literally.
So
Bacon. Well, I'm sorry, real quick. Bacon, did you see the thing? I think it was King 5, where, they cut to one of the reporters. She was trying to give an update on what it was like, but a bunch of people just kept yelling and just like flipping the bird on the camera. So they just had to cut the stream.
Wow.
So I missed that, but there's no shortage of material coming out of this, man. I can tell you that right now.
Bro, you better have this on your show tomorrow, Bacon.
Bacon.
I'll find it for you.
Chris, it's crazy because like the local news out of Madison, and those guys were just terrified. Even like the veteran reporter, who'd done this like 40 years, is just like shaking at the mic in the studio. And then he kept saying, if you have young kids, keep them away from the TV, the vulgarity and language. And I'm like, yeah, this is, come on.
9-year-old brother's watching the TV right now with my parents.
It's just insane.
I don't know. We're hours away from
watching TV.
The epicenter, so.
Yeah. So Nick, what's happening?
I've been on the west side for a little while. Just
west
yeah.
side of
Washington.
What? Okay.
Pretty close to where Bacon is, actually. And yeah, I was there for a little bit, and for circumstances I'd rather not discuss live, but for those reasons, I'm back. And it turned out to be a really, even though it was, Bacon, you've seen it, it was kind of a storm this morning, turned out to be a really good day to go back.
By the way, I have to say this, and I tweeted this out myself. One thing I got to hand Cascadia up here is that they actually managed to set buildings on fire during a rainstorm. That's pretty impressive.
How do you do that, right?
Credit for that.
Dude,
okay, here's decent rain up here.
Yeah, but here's the funny thing. It's just as bad in Pullman right now, or at least it was a little while ago. But here's the thing. So, my stepdad, he's a Seattle police officer, basically. And so, because he was helping me get back to my apartment, because of that, he can't be called in to assist with all this.
Oh, wow.
Which is kind of nice.
Wow.
And it's like, yeah, and apparently, like, internally, that was, like, a real concern. And I can't say I blame him, but I'm like, yeah, long story short, this turned out to be a really good day to go back.
No shit.
Hey, Nick, why don't you like the West Side? Why don't you like Pullman? Right now, I'll just copy and paste the link to just videos of all this rioting and stuff going on right now.
You can copy and paste the link to the show I did earlier today where I actually got the call like live on the show.
Right.
Live on the... Oh, okay. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, why don't I like the West Side? Because this kind of stuff doesn't happen on the East Side.
Wow.
And then, you know how there's... So for those of you who don't know, Washington State has like two main universities. One is University of Washington, which is in Seattle. That's their main campus. The other one is Washington State, which is where I go to. And especially tonight, but just in general, you know, my parents say, you know, UW is a good school, but I would fear for your safety if you went there. And I'm like, yeah, I can't blame you, especially recently.
Well, how far is that from where a lot of this has taken place, Nick? You know, a lot of, I guess, the looting, protesting. Right. Yeah. So
I'm in Pullman. That's where Wazoo is. That is a good, like, anywhere between 4 to 6 hours, depending on, like, a few things. But I am hours away from all this right now.
Okay.
Which is probably the best place to be.
Wow. It's crazy.
I can't disagree with that.
So Bacon, like, what's happening where you're at?
Well, here's what happened today. Well, keep in mind, I knew about this, and somebody's echoing me in the background. I don't know if you have your audio turned down or not.
Yeah, don't mute myself in case it's me.
No, don't worry about it. Anyways, so I covered kind of what happened last night. You know, with the CNN HQ being burned down.
No kidding, yeah.
Over in Atlanta. I had so much fun with that. This morning, I woke up. I was editing pictures of chicks that I've taken screenshots of doing that. And then I log on to the Instagram, and I get... The first thing I see is a picture of... What was it? Some profile called You Do Not Sleep There. And basically what they do is they take pictures of tents that are in places that pretty sure you're not allowed to actually camp in. Now, they have been gone for about the last 3 or 4 months. You can guess why. This time I actually saw their post, and it has a picture of a whole bunch of names of people who have actually been, you know, gunned down by police for whatever reason. You know, Eric Garner, Trayvon Martin, all the heavy hitters, all this stuff. And I go on this whole tirade on that, and I ended up talking about that later in the show. I went to Green Lake.
Okay.
And the reason I went to Green Lake is because I noticed on the 5 freeway there was like some slowdown. I didn't want to fucking do it, so I just took the tunnel right into the city, like going up north. Up north, you have Fremont and other places, in Wallingford, Ballard, Green Lake, Lake City, all these other places that are a lot better, not easier to deal with than downtown, Capitol Hill, Queen Anne, whatever, what have you. So I'm up there, and we're talking about that. I have a few other people on the show. They're talking about what's going on in their neck of the woods. Ohio, Dallas.
Yeah.
I think Juan joined the chat too. Was in San Francisco. He told me there are protests going on in San Fran as well as Oakland, where somebody ended up getting shot.
Like literally, dude, literally everywhere right now. Like I saw there was Minnesota. Like Doc, you're in Wisconsin. Stuff's going down right now too. We all know stuff's going down in Seattle. So it's
here's the thing. It's
independently happening all at once.
Independently happening all at once. No, here's the thing. What I thought at the time, as I was recording, I had not heard anything going on in Portland or Seattle, which led me to think, I thought it was just the places where it's like warm. I even looked up Minneapolis's weather. It was like 66 degrees at the time, nice and sunny out. Atlanta, nice and sunny. DC, nice and sunny. Didn't think it was happening up here. And I look up and like, oh God, oh no. They're burning down, what was it? Well, Gaps, Old Navies. Like just the most random places downtown that last I checked weren't even in business.
Well, some burned down a toilet paper factory or something.
And then I look, and then I see, okay. I look on the traffic, like, okay, most of downtown apparently has been shut down. And then there's stories coming out, okay, now there's curfews coming out. Not just in Seattle, which happened at 5 p.m., more on that in a second, but also Portland as well. Portland, for whatever reason, they decided to have a lockdown at 8 p.m., along with all the other places, which we talk about later.
Right.
And then live on the show, I think I logged into work like 2 minutes after 5 o'clock. Live, like the actual alerts went out. Curfew is happening here. Like, make sure you stay in your homes. Do not go out on the streets if you're downtown. So I think I actually got that on the show.
It beeped on your phone, right? That emergency alert?
Yeah. That's exactly what happened.
Holy smokes.
And then guess what happens? I end up getting an order. It goes directly to downtown. Right where they have
Dude, you're the first person I thought of. I'm like, okay, it looks like this is happening in like the Seattle area. Wait a minute, doesn't Bacon usually work this time of night? I wonder how he's doing.
Where I am.
So just so you guys know, like now YouTube is rejecting my comments. I'm getting a red thing that I can't comment right now on my own thread on my own show.
What? All right, well, send it to me. I'll comment it, and I'll get my stream banned.
El Duce is in Chicago. He's saying they're looting the Nike store here. He just posted, so I guess I'll try again.
Right.
Jesus, everybody's got it out for me. If you two guys weren't here, I swear to God, if the screen goes blank, you'll never see me again.
I blame Bacon. He's the one that's always getting his stuff banned.
Yeah, Bacon is. Yeah, ever since I did the show with Bacon. Bacon, I've had a lot of trouble.
Bacon, if you get this one down, I'm not making you another one. I've already done that once.
I have learned to accept being blamed for fucking everything. I'm okay with that.
See if I can make a post. Yeah, I guess now I'm back. This is unreal. I've never had this happen I've never had this happen. YouTube rejected your comment. And I just had I just welcomed him. Welcome, El Duce. So I tried to welcome you. I'm not going to do it again because apparently you're not the kind of guy who likes to be welcomed into a chat. But, holy God. So give me your take on, here's something else. So, chaos, right? Coronavirus throws us into chaos in the middle of March. People deal with it. They kind of get back into routine in the last week or two. This now puts everybody back in chaos. I mean, everybody's on edge with this. I mean, our community is going to spread. Where's it going to go? So now we've had 90 days and two significant chaos events that have impacted the entire nation. And as a researcher in chaos theory, that is almost unprecedented. Like during wars, you've had sequential war events which have happened. Right? Something and then something. But these are two unrelated events. They're very close in time. There's this thing called finite voltage. It was studied in World War II by a psychiatrist, Appel, saying people can only take so much time in chaos before they kind of crack if they don't have reset. And I'm looking at this and saying, holy smokes, I think a lot of people
isn't it?
are pushed to the edge right now, and people are just going to lose it, like cognitively lose it. If they, riots, it's one of those things, a protest. They had, in Madison, where they're having the riots right now in State Street, they had, it was called Freak Fest in October. It was a Halloween thing, and like 40,000 people show up. And then a couple of years ago, it got out of hand. Somebody started, threw a bench through a window, and then eventually, more of that happened. And it was just because of that mob mentality. People start to lose it when they get into these big crowds. And I'm like, people are already on edge. They're afraid.
And then it just pushes everybody over the edge.
What are we going to? I mean, how close are we? I mean, Target's starting to, or Juan posted the Target is shutting down 14 stores in the Bay Area. Are we going to see suspension of Postal? Are we going to see? I mean, how close? Even universities like where this is happening in Madison, literally is 1 block from the University of Wisconsin-Madison campus, which is shut down, right now. But I mean, what do you got? What's your take on this? Because people I know are starting to fray, like they're starting to lose it. They're just.
I can tell you this.
Yeah.
I talked to my mom, who's down in Inglewood. You may recognize that as a subsidiary of Los Angeles.
Sure.
I talked to her for Mother's Day, and she has a pretty strong mindset. She's no fragile woman, and she's starting to lose her shit over all the lockdowns, having to wear a mask out in public, having to stay 6 feet away from people, and all the other made up things we've had here. So if she's losing it, can you imagine the average Los Angelino or any person in any major city having to deal with this?
Like, Doc, think about it. You know how in your book you talk about the Taurus, which it's really like your cycle of what's normal. But yeah,
right.
You know how like as a result of like the new generations being so sheltered, their Taurus went from looking like this to like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So add that to like, what you said, the two, what do you call it? Sentinel events happening this close together. That's like, COVID was already pushing people over the edge.
Yeah,
this is just going to make it worse.
You're right.
Don't forget the murder hornets.
Oh yeah.
That was a thing for a while.
This might be a 3-punch. It might be like waves in Hawaii. They usually come in sets of 3. But you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the Christopher Nolan Batman movies with Christian Bale.
I love those. Yeah, let's talk about it.
Think about it. Because you know how in Batman Begins, it ends with the city being attacked and there are riots because of the fear toxin. But at the end, they get through that. Batman stops the villain. And, by the beginning of The Dark Knight, Gotham is slowly dragging itself back. It's slowly but surely happening.
Right.
And so right when they're kind of recovering from all that and things are looking good, then the Joker just shows up and pretty much ruins everything. Oh, hang on.
Well, Bacon, we got trouble here on Nick.
Door just walked in to see what the hell he's talking about.
Door just got beat down. Nick's stick's going off the air.
The mob has showed up outside his house.
Pissed off one too many people. This is a bad deal for Nick, man. This is not...
Yeah, at least you only have to deal with the bangs online. Nick's dealing with it in real life.
I'm telling you, man, it's irritating, right? It's just, I don't know. It pissed me off, right? So this is Nick in the front. This is taking a still shot from Nick's camera. That's Nick in the front, and apparently this is Batman in the back. This was taken 45 seconds ago off of his webcam. So this isn't going to go well.
I was here live, and I approve of this message.
So anyway, people, we've got The Dark Knight Rises, and it's a scene where the Joker is in the interrogation room at the police station, and suddenly Batman shows up behind him and smacks his head down into the metal table. That's the scene up on the screen. For those of you enjoying this show, audio only. But yeah, anyway, let me get out of this. I don't know. Nick's running. Did you see that?
Yeah, I saw that. He's manning his turrets or something. I don't know what's going on there.
Did you have the perimeter secure, Nick? Did you have to reload there? What did you do?
No,
Did you have to light the mode on fire? What's going on over there?
Did you have to light the modem on fire?
Yeah, my ex has caught up with me, so I had to activate my apartment's countermeasures.
Holy smokes. But Nick has just torched the 5G tower on top of his building.
Yeah, in all seriousness, no. My parents are staying with me because they helped me get back, so I just had to help them get ready and just show them where stuff was. But I do have countermeasures, though. I probably won't be able to stay on too much longer because they're going to sleep.
Oh,
and I'm
God, Bacon. Okay, let's let Nick talk because we're only going to have him for a short time.
But yeah, you guys made it.
I'll eat my pizza in the meantime.
Yeah, but it reminds me of the Christopher Nolan Batmans because I think of COVID as the first one. It's like the attack, and now, as people were slowly kind of recovering from that and things are reopening, then this happens. And if you really look at the structure of the Nolan Batman movies, The Dark Knight is the movie that really breaks everything. It's like they have to patch it up with a lie, which works for a little bit, but by the time Dark Knight Rises comes along, I don't know, everything just arguably it was even worse than The Dark Knight, if that makes sense. But that's what this reminds me of. Like right as we were starting to, things were starting to look good, boom.
So yeah, tell us more about that because I like your psychological analysis of this. So give us more on that.
To me, it's just like this kind of thing happened at the worst possible moment for pretty much everybody. If that makes sense.
Okay,
you're truly included.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously, what was it in The Dark Knight? I mean, yeah, just a series of things. I remember. When the city was held captive, those two like ferry boats, and they had to make a decision of kill everybody on one boat or everybody on another boat, and then it kind of reminds me too of what the third installment with Bane, when Bane was holding the city hostage and blew up the stadium.
Yeah. What's crazy about that though? It's like I remember someone said this.
The city of Seattle now.
Yeah. Okay, but here's the thing. I still think we're in phase 2. But, like, here's the thing. So the Joker just kidnapped the 2 ferry boats. Like, someone pointed out, in The Dark Knight Rises, Bane did what the Joker tried to do. Because you know how at the end of The Dark Knight, the reason people were on the ferries is because he broadcast it's like, yeah, come nightfall, the city is mine, and if anyone who's still here plays by my rules, kind of like making the city his playground. Bane actually did that. But the only reason Bane was able to do that in the third one is because of what the Joker did in the second one. He basically created the conditions that made what Bane did possible. If that makes sense.
So tell us more about that.
But yeah, so basically, sorry if I'm spoiling the Dark Knight trilogy for anybody, but yeah, so basically
years later.
Yeah, but you never know. So at the end of The Dark Knight, what the Joker does is, he causes a lot of fear, makes a lot of people turn on each other, and he corrupts Harvey Dent. And Harvey Dent in that movie, he's like the shining symbol of like hope for Gotham. And, Batman stops Harvey Dent and the Joker, but him and Commissioner Gordon basically say, if anybody realizes this, people are going to lose hope and we're not going to come back from this. And so they lie to cover it up. And by the third one, Bane finds out what Batman and Commissioner Gordon did, and after he beats the crap out of Batman, one of the first things he does is to expose Harvey Dent, because Jim Gordon wrote a speech revealing the truth, decided not to tell it. Bane got the speech and he read it.
Whoa.
Yep.
Didn't know that.
So think about this. I still think we're in part 2. So
yeah.
So, the second one, we got the riots and COVID. I'm wondering, what are the riots gonna... It's like, what are they going to set the stage for? Basically, what's part 3 is what I'm wondering right now.
I'm hoping it's the actual collapse of the apocalypse. I have some nice sharpened blades here ready to go, man. I've been waiting for this for years.
It's...
Bring it on!
What was it tonight in I think it was Dallas. It was somewhere in Texas. A store owner was trying to defend his property, and he was murdered in front of it. And then like his teeth were busted out, and just his corpse is like all mangled on the sidewalk. There were a few. I don't know if that was been scrubbed, but I saw it through some different stories as I was watching kind of some things like come through Drudge and some other sources. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how far. I mean, we're much, as you said, Nick. I mean, COVID. We thought of all the stuff that was going to happen. I think what's happening now is close to shutting down postal delivery. Right. I mean, UPS, all of these things, limiting grocery store hours. I mean, much more so than COVID ever would have done.
COVID was more or less the test run of an apocalypse. This is looking a lot more like another one. Oh God, what's Nick doing now?
Nick's running.
They got past his first line of defense.
What was his first line of defense?
I don't know. I thought it was him lighting the fire in the moat or something. Apparently, they got through that.
He watches Home Alone quite a bit, so it's probably like those Christmas ornaments set by the door or something like that. And then he set that heater thing that.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, you watch a lot of Home Alone, so you've got a lot of defense measures, and pretty soon Nick's going to go out.
He's got an anvil hanging above his flight of stairs.
Right. Right.
Funny enough, Bacon. Not quite that.
Not quite that. Don't disclose it if it's a legal issue here.
I know, but dude, Bacon, if you ever come visit me up here, you'll see.
Don't hit me with an anvil while I try to climb your stairs there.
All right. Hey,
I think John still said he wanted to join the chat, by the way.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Yeah. Do any of us have a way to contact him that's not Doc's social media?
No.
Oh God.
All
right. How do I?
John, wait a second.
How do I generate the link?
Okay, wait a
second.
No. It's good. I just got him. I'm sending him the link right now.
Bora says they got past the archers.
So, yeah.
I know the news. Nick Schulerner has a team of archers on his side.
Nick is like, if you've seen Cheyenne Mountain, it's better than that. He's got the blast door closed. It's intense. It is intense. Yeah, I mean, not to make light of this, but holy hell! I mean, the thing is, like, we can all see this stuff happening, unfolding ahead of us. Like today, when the news, peaceful protesting and stuff, I was like, it's not going to be that way once we get to 10 o'clock at night. It's not shaping up that way. Like, I study this stuff, I know, and I objectively started to share, why this was probably going to end up just like it did in my area. And of course, that ended up, swiftly getting me, taken off of social media. But so what's your take also on, I was watching Scott Adams of Dilbert, and he was analyzing the Minneapolis riots, and where the guy with a black umbrella, gas mask, took a hammer, and he casually was knocking out the windows of an AutoZone, and that was kind of the first domino to fall.
Saw that.
And Scott Adams said, he's analyzing this, and if you follow Scott Adams, I mean, he does a lot of really deep intellectual work, his book Loser Think, and he's really into the human psyche. But he said, this was well planned, right? Because the umbrella is to keep surveillance from identifying who they are. They already brought the hammer with them. They're casually going about strategic, doing this. They exit then from the scene. They're dressed so they can't be really identified. So I'm looking at this, and I'm hearing more people say, how many agitators, right? Hudson, Wisconsin sent a request to our governor saying they had information. This was the person in Hudson. We're going to bring John. The mayor said like 70,000 agitators were coming to Minneapolis, which is right.
Go ahead. I'll do you one even better, but go ahead. I'm going to get the link to this now.
We have John Steele
in the house. Nice to finally meet you.
John's
Now it's the real Seattle chat.
John is just like, I bought the highest condo in my building. I'm up to the 98th story.
Oh, man.
I'm good for now.
Yeah.
For now. It's the key word.
How's everyone? First off, first and foremost, can everybody sound off about where they are located geographically? I mean, don't dox yourselves. I just mean what city.
Right.
I'm about 30 miles south of you, which is about as close as I feel comfortably living. And guess what? Can you imagine why now?
So Bacon, you are 30 miles south of Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah, South King County.
Yeah. When I'm on the west side, I'm basically in the same area. But right now, I'm on the exact opposite end of the state. John, you want to know what this is?
And by the way, I am starting a GoFundMe so I can move to Eastern Washington. I'm not kidding. You guys think it's a joke? I'm not kidding.
I don't blame you.
Dave, I want at least $5 from you.
Yeah, give me the link, and
I'm setting it up tonight before I go to sleep. I'm getting the hell out of Seattle.
So John,
now you're gonna get out.
John is in Seattle. That was episode 78 of the Safety Doc podcast, Escape from Seattle. Awesome show. I am about 35 miles north of Madison, Wisconsin. And Madison, Wisconsin has popped off tonight. Police cars being torched, buildings being looted, other things which authentically, and people in Madison have been sending me messages, friends and things like that, and saying, here's what's happening. So that's where we're kind of at. We got you guys got Washington State covered. I guess I am taking everything this side of the Mississippi.
Okay, you handle that side of the Mississippi. The four of us, we're gonna handle this all by ourselves.
And Aaron Clary is handling Minneapolis if he gets activated.
By the way, Doc, I put the link to that Twitter thing in the chat. So
what
talking about crisis actors? This shit was set up.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of flying blind here because I'm gone. I can't even log in. I don't know what happened. And
it's in the chat of the YouTube stream.
Oh, okay. I got it. So yeah. Anyway, hey John, I was knocked off of Twitter tonight for
what?
I was critical of Madison media for how they were covering the riots. I mean, at that point it was riots. People were breaking, windows, fire, stuff like that. And they took their young reporters, like their 22, 23-year-old reporters. And they did this lead in of saying like, this must be the most, exciting thing for you since you graduated. And the person's like, I graduated 2 years ago. And anyway, I'm looking at this from a safety perspective, and I'm posting and saying, this is highly dangerous. They don't need to be this close. They're telling their reporters to go right in. The reporter had a purse, which was, looted from this boutique, and she was holding it. It was like lying out in front, and people are coming past her. And then I could start to see some people were kind of flagging me back on some posts. And then suddenly I was gone, and I've been gone, and I almost got booted off of YouTube. I had to kind of fight my way back here. So. Yeah. I don't know. I've got a target. I'm telling you
this, because I mean, let's be honest. You're the person that's actually studied situations like extremely fluid situations like this. Right. You're someone who's actually studied it from a scientific point of view.
Right.
So, I know this is really open ended, but studying past catastrophes, what good practices should we put in place right now?
Well, yeah. So one of the things I was talking about before you got on, you might have listened to it or not, but typically there's this thing called finite voltage that humans have. They study it in soldiers during World War II. A psychiatrist named Appel, saying you can be in a state of chaos, like at the front for maybe 100, 200 days, and then you crack. You're either a captive, you're killed, or you have a mental collapse. Now, if you extrapolate that into citizens and look at morale, studies of morale during wartime, for example, every 90 days you had to change things for citizens, or else they would start to just collapse, like they'd have a mental breakdown. So like you'd have to say, we're in a new phase of the war or something else. And so two things. One is like right now in the last 90 days, we had coronavirus, which threw everybody into chaos. People started to come back. Now we have this going on. Everybody's in chaos. So these are two sentinel events which would put people in chaos. That's never happened in modern times. 2 different events like this. So I think what needs to happen is we need to get, we need to call National Guard, activate military and whatever, and get stuff locked down before this. I mean, what? Minneapolis is burning again tonight? The stuff that I'm reading. I mean,
we're already doing that in
Madison,
most of the major cities.
it's not going to be different tomorrow night. It's going to be more brazen, more burning, expanding out into more areas. And someone is. I mean, we're going to end up with substantial loss of life, and in addition to loss of critical infrastructure, fire departments, hospitals, things like this are going to start to be targeted. So I think you've got to go aggressive in getting control on this. And why won't anybody do that? Well, because some people are going to die if you take that approach, but people are going to die if you don't take that approach. I mean, it's kind of like a Hiroshima Nagasaki.
Right. Here's the thing.
It's getting even worse than that. I have stories. John may have heard about this. I don't know about Nick, but there are kids getting pepper sprayed because their parents are dragging them to these protests too.
Yes, David, did you see that story? It was actually very sad. It's this very young girl. She looked like she was like 10, and they dressed her up in like the black bloc kind of thing, like the all black getup, and she ended up getting what? Dave, you're a parent of young kids, right?
I am.
I mean, what? I mean, I don't have kids, so how could a parent do that? Why would you put your child in harm's way like that? I do not understand this.
No, you're right. It's a logical. I mean, it's almost a Munchausen by proxy, type mentality, where you're bringing your kid into your own identity. I don't know if it's identity politics or what it would be, or these. I don't know. I mean, I've just these people who are like, they're super enlightened. I'm going to bring my kid into this situation because this is the world, and I want them to know what it's like. They have no filter. I mean, I would never do this with my.
You would take a bullet
kids
to the head before you would allow your child to go through that.
Oh, absolutely. I would never do that. Even tonight, as my kids one is. A teen and one is younger. So the teen can process, what's going on through the media, and the media, I'm telling you, the media out of Madison, were I thought COVID, I reported that they were losing it when COVID was, March, when the NCAA was shutting down Disney, and they're kind of shaking at they were losing it. Like the 40-year vet Anchorman was just like, and then they're sending these young reporters out, and they're just like wide-eyed, and things are happening around them and all of this stuff. But to bring kids into this, it's a complete disregard. And again, it's where you just think maybe it's Dunning-Kruger syndrome, right? Maybe people just think I have
a much darker view on this.
Yeah. Wait, hang on. Hey, John, did you see the thing on King 5 where they tried to cut from the studio to one of their reporters who was actually on the streets, and people just kept getting in front of her and just interrupting her? They're just like, yeah, okay, we're gonna cut back to the studio and give her time to get to a safer place.
No, I didn't see that one, but I would love to. I can't wait.
It was funny.
Well, I look. One thing I do look forward to with some sort of morbid curiosity is to. Do you remember after the Trump election? They made these montages of all the people crying after Trump was elected. Yep. I can't wait till
I remember that.
Yeah, I can't wait till all these ultra liberal and you know what? I'm not. Look, this is horrific. I've seen a guy. I think he's alive, but he looked like he was beaten within an inch of his life. This is. And people just filming it. This is horrific, and people just trying to justify it. Look, that's got to stop. Let's come on.
Yes,
come on.
Well, hang on.
Here's the thing. Go
ahead, Doc. So, is there any idea of the idea of just letting a fire burn itself out in safety? Because sometimes that's the only thing you can do.
Sure. Yeah.
There is
chaos.
I mean,
most of the time it just ends when it ends.
And as a firefighter, I mean, there were situations like that, right, where you just be like, yeah, it's got to burn itself out. We just contain the structure. Can't do anything about it. But the thing is, there's so much fuel to go yet, right? There's fuel such as hospitals. Again, taking over hospitals, police, water, sewer, I mean, I'm just saying you could cripple infrastructures. You could take out power plants. You could do all of this stuff, which will end up in thousands of people in peril or dying. So I think we're far from, we're far from that point of letting it burn out, because I think what we've seen is this isn't something where it's happened 1 or 2 nights and then, it's eased back. It's not like a Ferguson, right? It's not like that. It continues.
There's the LA riots all over again.
It continues to build and build,
and it's nationwide now.
It's right. It's nation
for days. You know what? A really simple reason it can last for days is look at the people who typically protest like anything.
That's the point that I wanted to bring up.
Lives to get back to, especially not now. So this can go along for days just on human fuel. If that makes sense.
No, that's the point I wanted to bring up. And just to answer John and Doc's question, I think this goes far deeper. Keep in mind, especially up here in Cascadia, Seattle, Portland, whatever, and a lot of these other places which are currently burning down, most of these people put their politics above everything else. That includes their family, that includes their children, that includes their job, that includes everything else. It's no wonder that you have, kids getting pepper sprayed in Seattle. They're bringing them out there because they put their politics above even the safety of their own children. It goes beyond that.
See, that's something that's beyond my comprehension, actually. I can't understand how you could put anything above your family. I don't get that. But that's just me. I don't know.
I mean, I kind of
You have more to live for than these people do.
Like this. It's like I can understand the idea of every man for himself, but not like actively bringing people into harm's way. Like I can't comprehend. I can comprehend.
Well, it's kind of hard to get babysitters these days, if I recall correctly.
Oh, sorry.
Saying.
Yeah, but you guys get the point I was trying to make, right?
Yeah,
every man for himself, but not actively putting kids in harm's way.
Yeah, and that's actually well, I mean, it's kind of like a I don't know, Doc, you probably have a scientific word for this, like this kind of collectivist illusion that can take place. I'm sure you've studied that because all the crises, you've examined it from a psychological point of view, where the rule book just goes out to the window. They think that, okay, well, the rules don't apply anymore, which,
and keep in mind, most people have been locked down for the last couple months. What are these rules you speak of?
Well, Doc, you talked about you call it the voltage theory, and I think they call it that because voltage in electricity technically means pressure, right? Is that
that's correct?
It sounds like the idea that you can only handle so much. You're muted. By the way, Doc, you're muted.
Yeah, Doc. Yeah. Doc,
he got muted on his own show.
Boomer Tech, Doc, you're muted.
Twitter banned his audio.
Just don't want to help Doc out. He doesn't know. He doesn't know how to get back on.
I think he needs his own GoFundMe.
All right, Doc. If you look at the lower bar, you might see that there's a button for the camera, for the mic, and you're still muted, brother.
I thought I was unprofessional here.
And leave him alone. He's a boomer. Come on, be nice, guys. So he's a good man. You probably hit that button, or the other option is.
Well, it says he's unmuted.
Okay,
check
so
the connection on your Yeti. See
it's probably it might be the connection of your mic.
Here we go. This is the one live stream where I'm not the one having the goddamn issues.
Notice my internet's doing pretty good, even though all my parents are using it as well.
So you're still muted. You're still muted, Doc. But it might actually be a physical connection of the hardware or the software of your.
I think we've officially hijacked the stream from Doc. Everybody.
Okay, let's be respectful. This is his stream, guys. I know you guys will be. You guys will be respectful.
What is this?
The Safety Doc podcast. I got muted. I got kicked off my own live stream show.
Yeah, no, we're not gonna do anything. Doc is one of the good ones out there,
right?
So
all right, he's going off. He's doing his own thing. Oh, hey, I'm on the top slot here.
What are you looking at? How is it going for you, John Steele. I understand you're in like a lot
Back.
closer than Bacon or even I am.
What is Seattle like right now?
All right.
Or it's like, or at least from
I
like your local area,
All right. Yeah.
like that, what you can see from your apartment or your house or whatever.
Enough. Actually, I am in South Lake Union, that neighborhood there. You know what that is, right? South Lake Union.
I was just there.
Kinda. Give me a second here.
Yeah, you
It's
can
kind
Google
of
South
sad
Lake
because
Union.
I've lived in.
I don't want to like
this area
totally
since
dox myself. I'm not going to give you the address, but
I
you know.
I know. I'm just trying to get the
We
general
get it.
idea. Oh, yep, I see it.
Yeah, so that's where I live. So it yeah, oof.
Whoa.
Yeah, so no, but no, I'm okay. It's all right. And I literally have 1,200 rounds. So
Okay.
I'm
Any
There
luck?
we go.
You're back.
Here I
You're
am
back.
back.
Welcome back
Oh,
to your own
welcome
show.
back. Your own show.
Oh, God.
Give him a second to reorientate himself. But
You know you're not bombing. Hey, you're not.
What the
You're
holy
bombing the
hell?
right targets if you're getting flagged. I think that's what's going on here.
oh, and he left us
And go.
again. Okay.
Wait.
Christ. I thought I had it bad.
Okay. Hey, stop picking on boomers, man. Come on.
That was too much fun.
Yeah, I know this boomers. You know, I was all for picking on boomers till I saw that really messed up video of the guy beating up the dude in the nursing home, and that really upset me, actually.
All right. Well, that's a little bit different, you know. We're just doing it online.
Okay, but yeah, but to answer you guys' question, Seattle is not as bad. Surprisingly.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Yes,
There we go.
You're back. Loud and
Testing.
clear. 5x5, brother.
We're hearing you loud and clear. Can you hear
Testing
us?
1, 2, 3.
Oh, now he can't hear us.
Oh, God.
Testing 1, 2,
God,
3.
can someone send him a text that we can hear him?
Hang on. Let me text him real quick.
Yeah, tell him that we can hear him fine.
Doc, we can hear you now.
Speaker.
You're good, Doc.
Oh God.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
I'm the only one who has the video, so I can actually nod.
Say yes. Say yes.
The strategic strike again to take me out, which is a 4-strike tonight.
That's how you know you're doing it right.
The EMP.
That's how you know you're doing it right.
Hold up a sign saying yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you. There's nothing. Honest to God, this is it's bordering. I mean, my hands aren't even on the keyboard. Yes, we can hear you. Yeah, thank you. Thanks. All right. Yeah, I'm back. I'm not touching the keyboard, and
Don't touch it anymore.
I'm being shut out. I'm being told I can't post. That YouTube hates me. I'm a bad
God.
person. I don't dress well. I can't. I'm not. I can't coordinate anything.
We've gone from the safety doc promoted his own show on his own show to getting banned off his own show.
I had a fight to get back on my own live stream. I'm
You know
going
what's
to
kind
have
of
to.
funny about this though? Like, let's be honest. Like, of all the controversial personalities we know, Dave is like the most benign, and
He worked in the fucking school system.
You think of all people, he'd be okay. No, apparently not.
They want me gone.
he's one of the sweetest guys I know, and he gets kicked off of everything, including his own show. It's like it's not right. I'm sorry.
I'm so glad I suggested this. I'm so glad.
Jesus,
It's the greatest.
I'm afraid to touch anything.
Rough now, right?
I have to ground myself
Right.
before I short a mic out or something here. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Yeah, they dropped an EMP over my house.
Dude, watch at the hour mark. Your house is going to get struck by lightning.
It's sad because I spent the whole day working in the yard. The place looks really good, so I don't want the neighborhood to get trashed tonight.
Well, David, don't dox yourself where you are, but I mean, how far are you from the troubles, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, I'm 35 miles, and actually to get to where this is happening, to get to the capital in Madison, you've got to weave through the city quite a bit to get down to where that's at. So, if I were to drive it, it's a solid 45-minute drive.
Oh, okay. So you're
Good.
To get
Good.
where
You're
I'm
far
at,
enough
the really,
away.
yeah, it's not in that, but Yeah, like who knows what again this ripple effect will be. Juan had posted in the chat that Target was closing stores temporarily in San Francisco area for safety reasons, because of protesting, riots, and things like that. How much of
The
this
same happened to me too, by the way. We got a text, and somehow I ended up getting 2 orders afterwards. But yeah, we closed
Taco
our
Town.
operations like about an hour after the curfew was announced.
The curfew was. I got that thing in Seattle. We all got that, like that Amber Alert thing. You know that thing, Dave? You probably know the.
Yeah.
You probably know the guy.
Got a live while I was recording a show. By the way,
I got
literally like on the show.
That thing is loud. Jesus, I was like,
oh yeah.
But yeah, what's actually funny, John, I don't know if you heard this, but my stepdad, who helped me get back here today, he's like a Seattle police officer. And because he's over here with me, he can't be called back to help with this. So it was like,
oh, no kidding.
It was the perfect day to come back here.
The hell is this? Taco Town?
The Taco Town's on fire.
No fucking way.
Honestly, they just lit up the Taco Town.
What did Taco Town do to anybody? They're lighting up Urban Outfitters. I think I didn't even know there was still a business.
The Taco Town. So this is a taco inside of a crepe, inside of a blueberry pancake.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Well, you guys missed the best video. And I wish I had saved the link, but it was actually the Seattle Cheesecake Factory, and it's an anti-pot chick. You saw the chick coming out of the Cheesecake Factory holding a cheesecake, like just walking in her full regalia of Antifa, walking away with her cheesecake. That was classic. I can't wait for the memes.
You know what I'd like to see? I'd like
to see. Did it look like somebody who would actually go for cheesecake?
She could have lost a few pounds if that's what
you I can't wait until I hope one of them burns down a toilet paper factory.
Well, as you said, Nick, I mean, where do we go next? If this continues a couple nights, it's going to be targeting manufacturing, right? And it's going to be, whether it be hospitals or, nursing homes, fire stations, but manufacturing those are big areas to try to secure, somebody setting up warehouses for whatever it is.
Well, I was thinking like power stations, like what?
Well, yeah, I wrote about it in School of Airs. I had a friend who, when 9/11 happened, so he lived out in the country, and in back of him was a substation for a power grid. And that night, he went out there with his guns, and he just stood guard at this power station, just self-appointed, right? And you're kind of thinking it's a weird thing to do, but he was like, who knows what's going to happen next? Like yeah, this is remote, but I think this is the mentality of what that we see this. We also see that we don't have police pushback in a lot of cases on this. What's the next step of organizing some of these people and saying, here's the power plant, here's the power grid, and bring that down and start blackouts, and take down, water and things like that, take down water towers. And I don't think we're that far away from people thinking, hey, if we're not getting resistance, if we don't restore,
let's just push the boundaries.
Let's just push the boundaries and see what else can fall. And that's the thing that I think gets really dangerous. So everybody's doing this political dance, right? We don't want to get involved. We don't want to be the police department that ends up enforcing whatever, and some people die because we're going to be on the media. Things will escalate. So. But
happened in Chicago.
Well, also, you got to look at it this way, though. If you're a police officer right now, are you going to pull your gun?
No, right. It's got to be horrible. I was thinking about that, right?
If you're a cop, you are not going to pull your gun.
It's got to be
right. Even if
it's horrible to be a police officer.
No, I think you guys are thinking just a little bit too much logically. Now, that would make sense if you're actually trying to premeditatively shut everything down to go after the water supply, to go after the power supply, gas supply, what have you. I don't think they're thinking that logically. My thought, actually, when you brought that up was you were talking about, South Lake Union, whatever. What happens if these guys actually go after Google? What happens if these guys actually go after, Amazon, Microsoft? Amazon's been pretty demonized pretty heavily here.
Yeah, but
I don't know if you've heard about that.
Well, they did go after Bezos' balls.
They did? No, I know
Yeah.
the three structures. They went after those.
Yeah, there was something about Bezos' balls they went after. Now, I'm not sure if that was a sexual fetish thing or a political statement, but
Because he has
Probably
those
both.
biosphere things, right, that are out in
yeah, they call their nickname is the Seattle Bezos
Bezos
balls.
balls.
So, yeah. So yeah, I how successful they were. I don't know. Apparently, Bezos got big balls, but yeah. And like I said, in Seattle, a lot of people were wondering. People were asking me this a couple of nights ago. Actually, no, they actually asked me the first time Portland went apeshit why it wasn't going on in Seattle. Well, I don't know if you guys remember because a couple of young bloods here now. David's old enough to remember the WTO riots. David, you remember those?
Mhm.
Okay, Seattle was the center of those. So when that happened, the Seattle Police Department was completely unprepared. They actually had to totally create a David, help me out with the verbiage here. A plan for dealing with that kind of unrest. And whenever there's been a protest since, Seattle is always pretty much, despite being an extremely liberal city and having how do I say this, leftist police chiefs and whatever, they've always had that training and infrastructure to deal with this kind of thing that places like Portland do not.
Right. Or Madison,
Does that really
Wisconsin.
mean anything if they're not willing to use that training?
Well, yeah, but that was the thing about the Seattle PD because of what happened in, when was it, 99? It was like it was like the December of 99, I think, when the WTO thing happened. And Seattle was pretty much locked down. And actually, I think the president was in town and basically anyway, I won't get into the whole thing. You guys can Google it if you're interested.
This I don't know anything about, actually.
That's Atham's job. We'll have him look it up.
But anyway, that was one of the reasons why Seattle police force has always been more professional in handling quote unquote demonstrations / protests / riots than, let's say, Portland, which is a neighboring city of, similar size, a little smaller, but
180 miles away.
Mm.
Wow. Yeah. So, John, you bring up a good point because, like so many of these police departments, Columbus, Ohio, Madison, Wisconsin, they're not at all prepared for what's happening right now. And typically in Madison, right, I mean, there are protests, but it's a march to the Capitol and, it's done, it peacefully dissolves. So they haven't trained for this. I'm just speaking as a safety expert. It's very unlikely they've had any in-depth training on something, like this. So they're kind of having to deal with this as it unfolds. And yeah, I mean, what orders are being given to stand down? The thing is, what's going to happen? Is people going to be, taken and hijacked into vehicles, driven away, people driving, in Madison, there was a police car, a cruiser on fire, and somebody got inside of this burning cruiser and drove it down the road like another 200 feet this evening. So,
oh, wow.
You could have easily had somebody plow in and, injure, kill 10 people. So, yeah, I'm actually amazed with everything going on that we haven't had a report of, someone bringing out like a mass shooting event that's happened on one side or the other, either a Kent State civilian militia or rioters. So I'm kind of surprised by that all of this has happened. This, and you see these videos, these store owners. And tonight, Madison, the one guy, he's like, I've had this story like my whole life and my family, and the damage is easily like $40,000 to $50,000. Plus, I was shut down for 2 months with COVID, and I don't know how I'm going to recover. And you're just like, people like that are pushed to the stress limit. So, oh man, I don't know. I have this feeling, and kind of, John, as you guys are saying, what is going to prevent tomorrow from being further escalated than what things are right now? And then it escalates.
I don't think it. I think that's going to happen regardless.
More important.
We've already seen that happen in Chicago, and I think it happened in Minneapolis as well. Like, people were given the orders to kind of stand down, and now like precincts are being burned down as we speak. We're already seeing that happen in certain cities.
Right.
You know?
More
And-
importantly, what is this going to set the stage for? Like my Dark Knight analogy.
What do you think on that, you guys? What do you think? What's coming next?
Do you want my 2 cents?
Yeah.
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 Well. First off, I do believe that I don't believe it'll be the Dark Knight scenario. I do believe that ultimately people, let's say, most of us, we're going to say, okay, enough of this. Not necessarily. We're not going to kid up and go out there and shoot down the protesters, but eventually people are going to say, look, this is. People are going to say, no, we don't want this. This is not the way we want to live. Now you might say I'm, unicorn pie in the sky, rainbows and stuff like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that people are going to say, look, enough is enough, because it's gotten to the point right now where people who have, people who are invested in society, powerful people, are at the point right now where they can lose something. Okay. So when it gets to that point, that's when you see a reaction. That's when you see a pushback. Now, a lot of you guys might disagree with me on this. I think the police are.
I don't, but please continue.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. I could be totally wrong.
Keep going.
I think that the police did the right thing by not. Look, if the police had started opening fire, and a lot of people, I see this like on Twitter and social media, I've been seeing it for the last 2 nights, open fire in these guys and stuff like that. If they had done that, that would totally played into the narrative. But the fact that they have showed restraint, which, to be honest, I can't imagine how they're doing it. Because if I was a cop, I would either have shot back or I would have handed my badge, one of the other.
Yeah.
But they've showed tremendous restraint. I don't see any, and I actually saw a cop in Chicago literally, but like 30 guys beating the shit out of him. And he never pulled his gun. And they've shown this, you can see it on Twitter. And they show this tremendous restraint. So when this all shakes out and it's shown that they didn't do that, it's going to be like, okay, now we played nice. We did it. You can't say anything bad about us. Okay, now it's our turn.
So
essentially, you're saying that it's like, since pretty much nobody's shooting back, eventually it's going to burn itself out.
Yes, it'll burn itself out because the like the CNNs and the there was 3 or 4 celebrities that were defending these guys very openly. The guy from The Office, was this Steve Carell or what?
Right.
A couple.
Steve Carell, really?
Yeah, the guy, and he was like offering his own. They all put up like $100,000 to pay bail, like the 4 of them. I forget what. And
You're kidding me.
Yeah, so all these people are going to be publicly shamed because they're going to the video like of the guy that was defending his store in Dallas. That was horrific. I mean, that was hard to watch. And I'm no pussy. Excuse my language, Dave. I don't want to talk bad on your show, but I've seen some bad stuff in my life, and just seeing things like that, there's a visceral reaction that most human beings have, and people are just not going to be forgiving to people who support that either directly or indirectly.
So what you're saying is, once the people who may be organizing this, quote unquote, or people who are in power, again, quote unquote, once they have some actual skin in the game, they may lose, or they might start backing off of things just a tad bit. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, partly, yes. I think that like it's gotten to the point like it was like what CNN was all for this, and then CNN got attacked.
And now their headquarters are burning down.
Okay, never mind.
Right.
I mean, I see what you're saying, but the only problem, I think, you're underestimating. Like, I think I brought this up earlier in the live stream. It's like stuff like this can last for days, because look at the people who participate in these. Many of them don't have jobs or lives to get back to.
Mm-hmm.
Especially these days.
It's an incredible adrenaline, rush too. I mean, there's an addiction to this type of, behavior. And again, this crowd, when you're a part of a crowd, something happens that is very different than, in being an individual in a situation like that. And John, I agree with what you're saying. but I also struggle with thinking like today, 1,000 people turned out in Minneapolis, to clean up the city, brought brooms and wheelbarrows and stuff. Yet tonight the city is being destroyed again. And if I'm coming out, it's one thing if a tornado hits my community and I go out there for a couple of days helping people, but if a tornado hits like the next day and the day after that, I mean, there's this fatigue that's going to set in. I just don't see people. It's one thing if it's war, right? World War II, and you're getting, the Blitzkrieg, and you're in England, and you got to dig out every day and things like that. But I don't know. I think there's going to be a fatigue where people, after coming out one or two times to clean up Main Street of Minneapolis or Madison or Lake Street or whatever, they're going to be like, I'm not going to do this again, and that's what I'm worried about, because I think people respond well
they respond well to crisis in a short term.
Crisis and think about
fantastic way to put it.
We're not used to long term. Like Chernobyl was 86 was the last real long term crisis we had. 9/11 was a short term crisis. Nobody expected planes on September 12th to, strike in the U.S. So this is, COVID was drawn out. Everybody's afraid. Now this is continuing. People aren't used to this. And just from analyzing disasters, school shooting happens, it concludes. I mean, it's devastating, but there usually aren't successive school shootings in a setting. I mean, they happen across the country, but so we're pushing people into this really dangerous psychological territory. And I think, Bacon, you said, was it your relative or your mom or something was starting to really lose touch with, reality, maybe in just super sensitive to what was happening in the environment, oversensitive. And people have confirmation
hypersensitivity.
And people have confirmation.
Not particularly reality, but and Game On, this is somebody who she has her own little farm, like in her not a farm, but like a garden or something in her backyard. She's probably the most set up person I could think of that's in the area. Where she needs to go off the grid, she can. But she's having to deal with all the regulations, all the mandates, wear face mask, and all this other happy horse crap. That's starting to get to her. And then now this happens.
Well, right. I think it's this compounding which we haven't seen and we haven't studied, right? And in addition to that, 40 million people laid off, so this economic twist of things. And I have not seen something like this, and I'm sure it's probably happened, but it hasn't happened in contemporary times, and I don't know what to make of it. I think face validity, like what we're doing, saying here's what's happening in Seattle, outside of Seattle, here's what's happening in Madison, things that we actually observe, things, people are sending me pictures, people I know from Madison, that helps us. But also in the situation they're observing is very unstable and changing. It's hard. We stay out in this chaos area and it starts to just burn all of us out. Confirmation bias too. So many people look for the riot to happen, so they manifest the riot. They look for these things, and they only see the news that plays to their narrative. I don't know. So guys, I mean, tell me what you're thinking too, because
can I just say, David, I don't disagree with anything that you said, but I think it's very important, especially important for individuals like yourself that people like me look to when things like this happen, is that we stay rational. That's extremely important, and that we have to. I mean, I hate to put this burden on you, but you are an expert in this, and no, I'm not kidding.
No, I think
you have to stay rational, and you have to look at this in a way of like, okay, how do we work the problem? Okay, this is what's going on right now. Okay, what do we do? Now, you could be 100% right. Like, okay, this is unprecedented. Okay, but what do we know from the past? Okay, we don't have an exact situation like this, but what can we predict from this? Like, what do we know about sociological and psychological the way society reacts in similar situations? Okay, how do we project? How do we work this? How do we work the problem? Like you said that in the book. How do we work it?
Right. Yeah. So how do we work the problem? Kind of like in Apollo 13. And part of it, it becomes a non-negotiable, saying we have to work it. We have to come to some resolution. And I guess, I mean, it's going to then come to leaders of different groups, I guess, coming together and trying to figure out. I don't know if it's so much a truce or commonalities. I kind of think of Jimmy Carter, right? Like we can have some negotiation, at least that we can move to a negotiation versus a protest, which devolves into a riot.
Like now,
because of possible agitators brought in from third-party interest and all of that stuff. So, I think rational is it. There will be a point when this will end. I mean, it won't sustain, but at the same time,
And if it does, we'll just adapt to the new normal.
we'll adapt. But the thing is, though, if things start to evolve to a power station, a power grid, water supplies, that fire departments, right? You can't bring fire trucks into a situation like this because a fire engine is a $600,000 piece of equipment, and just an engine. A ladder truck is over $1 million, and they take 2 years to make. So you cannot.
Is that true? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
really?
it's completely accurate. So,
Okay.
a ladder truck, when you see a ladder truck, a new ladder truck is about 1.3 million for a basic 100-foot ladder truck. And so you cannot bring these things into situations that you can't secure, because if you lose that asset, it's going to take you a year to replace it, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to start having some assets taken out of the mix. We saw, ambulances, that have been, torch tip over too. So
Then you have to start bringing them from out of state. I don't know. I used to live in a town called June Lake.
Okay.
Well, I used to live in a town called June Lake, and June Lake is next to Mammoth Lakes. And if none of you guys know where that is, that's off the eastern side of Yosemite, and they were clearing out some of the brush up there on one of the trails. One of the what do you call them? Basically, it was a tractor with what do you call it? Lawnmowers attached to it. It ended up catching some rocks. It caught fire. The guys got out right before everything went up in flames.
Oh, but the vehicle itself went
up.
up, is what you're saying. Is that what happened?
The vehicle itself went up along with most of the mountain. And so literally I go into work and there's smoke coming off the mountains. And we're watching like pine trees. I don't know if you've ever seen a pine tree go up. It goes up very quickly. And they were bringing in units from Montana. Right. They were bringing units from Arizona, Idaho, Washington State.
But it's regional. Like here, it's everywhere. Like you can't. It's just like COVID. How do you shift resources? So that's the thing. Custer, South Dakota had a wildfire 3 years ago during winter, but there wasn't a lot of snowfall. And this wildfire started small and it grew bigger. And they usually have firefighters there and equipment, but it wasn't the time of year for wildfires. So they took all that equipment and moved it over to California, where the wildfire season had just started, and they couldn't get that equipment back. So I know what you're saying, Bacon, but also where do you borrow from right now? I mean, which community is going to lend you?
You're right.
Resources.
The situation that I brought up, yes, that was regional. That was in one spot. Here, it's almost everywhere.
And who's going to do that? I mean, who's going to loan you something? There just isn't the stockpiles. So I think we're at this point, I guess, where we have to watch what happens, situational awareness, talking to people. If there would have to be some drastic military, police state response if there was a substantial power grid interference or something like that, because then that becomes a country.
Well, only in that. Look, David, I agree with you when it comes to like if the power grid goes down. Yes, that then it becomes like, because that could be a point where China attacks or something. Yes, absolutely. But short of that, I don't believe the whole posse comitatus thing. I don't want tanks. I don't want M1A2s coming down, Dexter Avenue, where I live. I just
don't worry, they're already outside your front door.
Yeah, they probably are.
Right then, John's video cuts off.
Yeah, right. And the tank shell comes into my living room.
One of the members of my family does this meme. Would you read that real quick?
My point is that short of that, I don't. We have to. you know, as I would say, or work the problem. We have to work the problem. Let's not, you know, it's easy to say, and I don't mean this as a bumper sticker platitude, but I don't know how else to say it. We got to work the problem. Let's not get overly emotional and, you know, let's work it. Okay. We can solve this. Okay. This is actually a lot simpler to solve than the Apollo 13 mission. I sincerely believe that. If we can solve that, we can sure as hell solve this.
Right.
That's my 2 cents. I could be wrong, and if you guys disagree with me, that's totally cool. You know, I'm totally open to the idea.
I'll throw in disagreement right now. That was back in 1969 when we had actual men who could do the rational thinking you're doing right now. Who's the mayor of Seattle? Who's the mayor of Portland? Who's the mayor of Minneapolis? Who's the mayor of Atlanta or Georgia or whatever?
Who's the governor of the whole state?
Who's the governor? There you go.
So from a political standpoint, I guess who starts, because in our state, our governor's been pretty much silent, right? Completely vanished during all of this. So I mean, I think it'd be extremely powerful, to have the governor come out, start to meet with some of these groups, some of the business owners, start to and that's a good point. I mean, it begins with this type of negotiation and policy. I mean, Weinberger, right, was a pro at this back in, what was it, the early Reagan administration, like kind of the negotiating and things like that. I think that's where we need to go. I don't know who takes the ball and runs with it, because, and we saw this with COVID, right? The states and the Fed fighting, the states and the states fighting, the states in Wisconsin, all 72 counties kind of turned against each other, overruled the governor. So it's hard. I'll say this: the mayor of Madison did a phenomenal job with a press conference and had different members of the community with her. The police chief did an awesome job in a press conference talking about, here's the type of things we use, describing them, all this. We don't want to use these things, but here's how this is. And I mean, they really did a great job. And if they continue to do that, I think that's positive. Now the thing is, like, how do we identify? So in Madison, there was a protest, a large protest today, which was peaceful, around noon. And then in the evening, the secondary protest started, and that was the one that turned into rioting, looting, burning police cars.
Yeah, same in Seattle, exact same thing.
So is it different people who's doing this? Because there was the one that was bigger, substantially bigger, was peaceful. No arrests, people, and so.
Well, yeah, you have all the virtual signaling soccer moms who are earning too much money have to come out and do that. And then, when the sun goes down.
Don't get me started. Don't get me fucking started. That was the whole subject of today's show before everything got interrupted. By the way, Nick, check your, oh, geez, now he's gone. I'll wait till he gets back. No, that was the whole thing. We're looking at all these people. They have no jobs. They have nothing else better going on. Why not go out and riot? Why not go out and protest and still nice?
But every day people don't go out and riot and protest, so I don't know. I mean, there's an inherent risk to it. And I think people, they want their communities. I mean, they want to have their Cub Foods and their post office, and they want these things. Nobody wants to actually, live in a community that is significant. I mean, just like when COVID was hit here, we had the announcement, permanent closure of this restaurant or this small engines place or whatever. And we're thinking, we're losing some of the vibrant aspects that make our community, a great place to live. And I don't think anybody, wants to see this contributing of this divisive community and people burning down their community. But,
well, David, that's the problem though, is there are people that want to see that for their, you're right. As a collective, most people don't, but there are people that want to see exactly that. And that's what's happening right now.
So why do you think that is? I mean, disenfranchised or?
No. I don't believe
Again, leave me out of this.
No, well, this might be a topic that I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't feel comfortable discussing on your channel on air, but we could talk about it privately, and you could edit it and put it in your next book.
Sure.
How's that? Yeah. So I've said too much about my location and who I am to really go into that right now. If that's cool with everybody, I'm sorry.
Don't worry, no one here is going to out you out.
Okay, brother. Thanks, man.
At least I hope not.
Okay.
Wow. So keep your head. I mean, face validity is a big thing. We talked about it during the COVID shows. What we're doing, talking to people, because while this seems like this is happening everywhere, it's happening, in larger, for the most part, urban, communities, and not all
places that deserve it, basically.
But
maybe not all of them, but quite a few.
In my community, it isn't happening. If I go outside, this isn't happening. And so that's the first thing is face validity, because it's too easy to say, this is what I heard, right? I heard this versus this is what I observed. And if you authentically can't observe it, and it doesn't make sense to like drive to where something is a known, hot zone of activity to observe it. If you can find people in that area who are authentically posting information, like Juan in San Francisco, you can base your information off of them as trusted member checks. But to really avoid this mentality of soaking in the news and just saying, I think, because of the narrative you're being told. If I listen to people and they say, I observed, and then followed up with, and here's what, now I think because of what I observed, I think this. Like, I observed that our Walmart has, now 5 feet apart, and they have this fence, and people have to wear masks, and they have one-way aisles. So I think, whatever, they could be, changing up their store hours, maybe next, or some parking. I mean, people can kind of observe and then come to what they think will be the next step, versus this whole thing of what they, because I mean, there's so many people tonight, you Drudge Report, these others. This isn't my source of information, but I just like to go to these locations because I know that's where people are going for information. People, all right, we're going to be on the cusp of martial law, and the White House, will be overrun and all these things. I don't think that's going to happen.
No, the White House will not be overrun. Okay,
right.
That's not going to happen.
They already tried.
Yeah, but look, the White House is not going to be overrun. Look, Doc, you raised some like really legitimate concerns because you're talking about, let's say, power stations, stuff like that. Because think about like what would that mean to hospitals, nursing homes, people who need electricity literally to breathe.
Right.
If you're talking about things like that, and ultimately, my argument is that at least in the intermediate term, this will work against the people that have done this. It'll totally turn public opinion against them, because for the most part, people like their comfortable living. They like all this amenities that we have in modern society. Now, once you've interfered with that, they like being able to call up and order something from Amazon, whether it be a pizza or a DVD player.
Yeah.
And you take that away from them, they're going to look for someone to blame. And, it's going to hard to blame Trump, saying Trump's not the person why I can't get a DVD player. So that's and think about, like San Francisco, right? The Targets are shutting down, and some of those things. And if grocery stores further limit, people are going to be like, enough of this stuff, right? Mm-hmm.
Like we have to get our house.
Give me a second. I'm R2D2ing as well. Yeah.
Hey, Doc, did you check your email? I just sent you the pictures Bacon wanted me to send you.
So the question, it's staying rational. It's the member check, and it's really I guess keeping your own house in order and not introducing yourself into unstable situations. As these people bringing their kids into something, or saying, there's something happening in Seattle right now, so I'm going to show up and observe it. So many people do that so they can. Someone was in Madison. I think someone was filming a music video out in front of the riots. Literally, like 60 feet away, they had a couple cameras and they had the music going, and they were doing it with the riot in the background or the protest, whatever. So these people are just this weird filter system. But yeah, I think people will get fed up with it. I think things will just wear out. Like people will just fatigue from going and doing this night after night. And public relations, that's got to be right now the priority for these big cities, Minneapolis, Houston, Seattle,
Portland, Dallas. No, I totally agree. At the same time, I just want to add this, and I don't want to put this all huge onus on you, but there is some truth to it, Doc. People like you are looked to as experts on this because you have studied that. So there are people that are going to look to you and people like you for leadership on this. So one thing that we do need at a time like this is good leadership, not just leadership, but good leadership, intelligent, rational leadership.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Go to I think there's one more picture. Notice what the reporter isn't wearing. You might have to zoom in on that one. What is she not wearing?
A mask. And then she's holding the microphone.
You speak of.
Where was this taken at?
I think Bacon himself took it.
Bacon.
Something about
so
that.
I want to go back to what John what John said is, yeah, you're right, John. And I appreciate that because I need to hold myself to that standard. And it is easy to also Dunning-Kruger hits everybody, right? I've been hit up with Dunning-Kruger. Dunning-Kruger effect is when you overestimate also your abilities in a situation. You think I'm going to be able to handle this, or you just get sucked into confirmation bias and you don't really see other sides of a narrative. You see the part of the narrative you want. And so that was when I jumped in tonight on Twitter and started to objectively point out the danger in how the media was putting their own reporters into the midst of a very unstable situation. I was trying to bring a voice of, I think, reason, intelligence to this conversation. And then the guy booted off of Twitter because of it. But I think, but yeah, you're absolutely right. People, I just keep, so somebody approached me during COVID, right? The stock market drops down to 18,000. And it's somebody I worked with years
from 29 to 18 was right. That was a big dump.
And they got a hold of me and they're just like panicked. They just retired and said, what do I do? And I said, well, I'm not a financial guy, but should we sell everything and everything? But I pulled them back and I said, well, the thing is, like, it has fallen back to the level it was, and I calculated out like 3 years ago or 4 years ago. So I said it's retraced to 4 years. It hasn't retraced to 1929 or whatever, but there is inherent value in everything. Every business, everything has some value to it. And if you add dividends, your dividends are kind of like wearing your share price down, making it more valuable. So I said there's all these things to kind of think about. And in the past, things have kind of rebounded. But I'm not telling you what to do, but take some time to take all of this in instead of hitting the sell button right now because you're just dealing off panic. They actually were willing to scan all of their financial documents and send them to me to look at and tell them what to do. Wow. And I said no. And I also just said you're a rational person, but in this you're making irrational decisions off of what you're seeing in the media, what's actually showing up on the numbers on your screen. Mm-hmm. And you've got to remove yourself from that because when you're irrational, that's not a good time to make decisions. You have to be informed on decisions. So that's the thing. Taking a pause.
Bacon's back. He's trying to get our attention in the chat.
Okay.
I don't know what the hell happened. I think it was because I was Bluetoothing the images you just put up there. But I'm back on.
You know what I think happened, Bacon? I think
I can take a while. Yes.
No, I think everybody is switching the problems they usually have. I usually have so my issues went to Bacon. Bacon usually has trouble getting, gets banned from stuff. That jumped to Doc.
Right. No, but what Doc was saying was right on. Is do not surrender rationality. Do not let emotions hijack your brain. Okay.
Don't look for someone else or something else to make your decisions for
Yeah,
you.
don't surrender your autonomy. How about that?
Right.
That's the problem here. See, Safety Doc is going to take care of his and whatever is under his control. Nick Schulander is going to take care of what's under his control. Me and John Still, we damn sure are going to take care of what's under our control. What are the people here doing in response? You know, aside from stealing all the air tops or whatever the hell they're getting from Nike and AutoZone or whatever. That's the problem there. You know, everybody else is looking for everyone else to solve the problem for them. We're the only ones, you know, doing this damn live stream here amongst other people who are listening, Bull Rush being part of that. We're the ones actually taking agency of our own actions and our own existence. How many other people have been bred, you know, let alone taught in public schools or otherwise, to look for other people to look for solutions for their own livelihoods? I mean, think about that for a second.
And
the only reason a lot of this is happening anyway.
Yeah. More importantly, people like us who are autonomous, where did we learn that from? Because I can guarantee you
Here
in the 8-12 education system.
It wasn't through. Well, you know, I got an answer. I went to Catholic school, so maybe that's where I learned it. You know, when I was the reason I became autonomous, I was running away from priests, so I had to learn good places to hide.
Probably literally.
No one taught me, you know, how to do it. I had to figure it out on my own. So that's where it came from. I'm teasing, and all the Catholics listening. I'm sorry.
I mean,
so
some
you know,
people say it's like, oh, just do public school or private school. It's like
not the Ashkenazi people.
The same cloth, dude.
So when you guys talk about this, so there is something though that we're kind of overlooking. So think about the hurricanes, like Harvey and Katrina, not good one, but like recent ones like Harvey a couple of years ago. So Hurricane Harvey, you know, Louisiana, Texas, Florida significantly impacted. And then you did have a strong civilian response in the form of Cajun Navy relief, Texas Navy relief, variants of Cajun Navy. These are 501(c) or C3s or whatever. But I wrote about that in the book. I had a couple interviews. One was Katie Pashon, and one was a rescue group that went and helped out in the Bahamas after the hurricane there last year. So these are substantial grassroots organizations which just tap on, you know, people. Okay, you're a dentist, you're a plumber, you're whatever, and they all come together. So there is that good that's there, and it happens right now. Like that network is right there. The thing is, like, so I think those types of things can come in, and communities can rebuild, can repair that fabric. This is tougher because, right, when you come in with the Cajun Navy relief, you're coming in either before the hurricane hits and you're getting people out because flooding happens before a hurricane hits, or it's after the hurricane hits and you're getting a boat in to get people off of their roof or something like that.
You're talking about the law of immediacy.
Yeah.
And I just made that phrase up, by the way, guys. No, but it's true.
Sounds good to me.
No, there is a certain, I think that's what you were going with this, Doc, is there's something about when it's immediate that as far as like getting people out and stuff like that. But you're thinking about like, what is this going to be like? This is a prolonged kind of social decay kind of thing that's going.
It is, but but like Cajun Navy relief, they'll stay with people and they'll be there a month or two later. They'll come back and help them rip out drywall, which had rotted because of the flood, put in new drywall. So it's not really this like we're going to be there for a week and then we're gone. It's a multi-month commitment by these grassroots organizations. And like on the blog post where I had Katie Pashon on, I don't know, safetyphd.com, you can find them. There were several pictures she showed where it's like, here, you know, we're back 3 months later, we're helping, you know, get this house rebuilt, get this. And this is on a large scale. Like there's thousands of people that they're helping. So I do think these things are there and things will get all the physical stuff, right? All the buildings can be repaired. And John, you made a good point. I mean, we can repair a Target and a Cub Foods and AutoZone and all of those things. If officers tried to keep that third precinct in Minneapolis, which was already, you know, pretty much destroyed, if that would have been we're not going to break point and they end up killing 15 people, that whole town, the whole country is gone.
Yes.
And what they've demonstrated in trying to maintain First Amendment expression, trying to maintain safe protesting, I think has been admirable. So you're right. I think that message is getting conveyed in this. I shared when the Madison police chief was on TV, he was really articulate and really in tune, to what their role was as a police department, what they were hopefully going to do to but preserve the right for people to express their First Amendment rights, but then also keep their community safe. And so yeah, I think there's a lot of these things can be mended, and as long as we don't have some huge sentinel event happen, I think that will happen. I'd like to. This is where we need the people our politicians to really come out and show their ability for public relations on a long-term scale, right?
Yeah, but that's that big X factor, though, isn't it, Dave? Like, because I gotta check out for 10 seconds, but I really don't believe. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know if the Democrats know whether the shit go sailing right now. I'm not sure how they can spin this in a good way, because there's no way they can really sell this as a bunch of MAGA hat supporters burnt down all these cities. I don't think anyone's going to buy that. It'll be interesting to see what happens. So I don't know. I do believe that one of the lasting, at least intermediate to long-term lasting events about it is people going to kind of give up on the cities. Like if the corporation Target, are they going to rebuild in Minneapolis?
No, You're right. I thought about that. They already had service deserts, right? We know a lot of these communities have food deserts, stores, retail won't go.
There's no grocery stores in these areas. Yeah.
So yeah, what is your motive to rebuild in these areas, or these small businesses which were already stressed? So do you create these more enhanced deserts, and those just happen normally from poverty. Like those happen all across. I've studied those, from a school safety standpoint. I think it was the city of Pittsburgh increased their lockdown drills just because certain communities were having more lockdown situations in residential areas or proximal to the school. So yeah, this is the thing of, who's going to make these investments? And we're already stressed with what COVID has done and everything. And then I'm trying to piece together the end game in this, like how we come out of this. Like I'm trying to look to where the light bends on the horizon, because I think in COVID you could kind of see where it was starting to come back online, and things would have got a pretty regular routine, a Taurus that we're used to. But now,
and then this happens.
This happens,
and this stuff tells into my point here.
It's a vector.
No, well, this also into my, and I put it in the chat here. It's, what you assume that this assumes, and sorry to pile on extra problems here before we suggest solutions, but this assumes that we have, skin in the game in whatever region we're in, whether it's Seattle, like where John Still is, whether it's in Minneapolis, where Aaron Clary is, whether it's in Wisconsin, where you're close by or you're in, In order for even, like the example you gave with the Cajun Navy, and just to throw this in there, when Sully crashed the plane in the Hudson Bay and we had all these boats come out and rescue people, these people, first of all, not only was that an acute situation, these people have got skin in the game. They cared about the areas they lived in. I don't think that's really the case here. Do you think if people really care about Urban Outfitters or Old Navy, they'll be burning them down here in Seattle? Do you think if people in Atlanta really cared about the CNN HQ, they'd be burning that down, let alone the AutoZones and God knows whatever else is nearby? That would not be happening. Again, maybe that's a small enclave of the population that was just looking for a reason to get out and steal Nike shoes and, torque wrenches or God knows whatever else. But these people will not be burning down their own neighborhoods if they had skin in the neighborhoods that they currently lived in. They don't care. I don't. That's just my thought.
Yeah, what do you guys think about that?
I'm not going to disagree with anyone right now. It's so fluid. I'm to be honest, I'm still mentally and psychologically digesting what I've been viewing.
I think we all are.
So here's something. I'm gonna bring it up on a side screen, but so I'm writing a second book, and it's titled "The Velocity of Information and Face Validity."
I got to read another one of your books.
Oh, Jesus Christ! More homework assignments.
This one will be good. One will be good.
No, I loved your book, brother.
I'm
not. You know, I did. I read.
I appreciate. I know you guys. Yeah. So the thing is, though, the velocity of information, and this is pretty well studied in a lot of areas, but not really compiled for the typical person to understand. So basically, when something happens, whether it be a 9/11, when it's when the NBA is shut down in the middle of March 15th, Disney closes this rapid news. It takes about 72 hours for people to digest what's happening, and then also to figure out, okay, here's my authentic sources, and here's my face validity, right? So when I did a show during on the podcast here, I did a face validity show right when everything was going down with the coronavirus. So like right around March 15th, I went out with the camcorder to our hospital and saw the parking lot, saw the signs, didn't see cars pulling up for the respiratory care clinic. I went to the armory, was seeing what was happening at the armory, because people were saying, right, they're staging at the armory, they're bringing in like big choppers and unloading stuff. I'm like, holy God, I'd never seen this before. No, it wasn't happening at all. It was just like 2 vehicles in the parking lot and nothing. I went to all of these places. Yeah, some things had changed, like the basketball court, it was all taped off. You couldn't go there. There were a number of things.
Oh my God! You said that they take off the basketball. Oh God!
I need as much practice as I can get.
Isn't that in the Book of Revelation?
All bets are off now.
Yeah, the lion's sitting down with the lamb, and they close up the basketball courts.
That's one of the horsemen was riding on a basketball court.
That's the fifth. That's the fifth horseman. Yeah.
But so I did, and I went to Walmart. I went to my bank, right? So the bank had shut down the lobby, but still had drive-through. And the video was out there. And then I showed these clips and said, here's what's different. Here's what's not different. And then I took a few more, like few days later. Actually, guys, I did 13 videos that I never shared publicly, but I have them privately, spaced 5 days apart, starting on March 15th.
I'm going to make you give those to me.
So
I want to see this too.
I won't share them, but I'm going to make you give them to me.
Not that but what I did is I knew we were in the midst of something, and I wanted to be able to compare one point in time to another, because everything is laminated to time and context. Right? Like you can't look at someone and say, what you're doing is breaking the law. And they're like, well, when I did it 5 years ago, it wasn't illegal to, smoke in a lobby or something like that. That law was passed last week. And now you're trying to charge me for 5 years ago because I did this and there wasn't a law. So anyway, I'm looking and saying, well, how did my thinking change? What changed? What did I see that objectively changed? And that's the part that I'm really telling more and more people this. Face validity, and don't outsource your face validity, right? Don't outsource it to the news, because the news has to get a 90-second clip. They have to move on. It has to be this thing. There's a bias. People own the news. Or if you do have the news, like triangulate it with people that you know and you trust are giving you authentic information. The other part is to be a good member check. I've gone to people and I've said, listen, I've known you a long time, and one person was a relative, and I'm like, you're irrational right now. What you're telling me isn't authentically happening. And I know you believe it's happening because maybe you've seen an article, or it's just confirmation bias. You're really anxious. There's a lot of adrenaline. Someone was telling me all the borders to Wisconsin were closed, like that martial law had been put in place. And I said, it's not accurate. I know for a fact that is not accurate. And it's difficult. You have to member check with people you're close with, people who trust you, I guess, as a public figure too. If I'm saying, no, this isn't authentically how this is playing out. And then you have to give people a way out on that too. You have to not embarrass them, right? Because you just have to say, this is a very charged time information, this velocity of information, the 72 hours, maybe a little bit longer. You can actually push it out, to 96 hours. I have these different time frames, but things become much clearer after 72 hours because you take all of the information that gets dumped on you and you start to figure out how to categorize it, right? We're pattern human beings. We put things into patterns.
Yeah, pattern recognition is. Can I share an anecdote about what you were saying? About 20 years ago, there was an earthquake in Seattle, and it was minor. It really was, because I was living here, but it was unusual. Seattle, if they got earthquakes, they were like the tremors. Like, did you feel that? I'm not sure. Did you feel that? Maybe. Those kind of things. Anyway, there was an earthquake here that everybody felt. And there was some damage. I remember it happened, and the building shook, but didn't fall down or anything. Anyway, there was all sorts of news coverage, and they went to this. I swear to God, every news source there was, they went to this one brick building. And the thing about brick buildings is they don't have any give in them, right? So they all and all the bricks fell down. They all filmed from that one spot, and they showed this one building where it was literally half of it was gone, and it was older than dust. This building. And they all filmed that. I had everybody calling me up from New York, where I'm from. So, are you okay? Are you still alive? Are you okay? I was like, what are you talking about? There was an earthquake there. The city is in rubble. I was like, what are you talking about? It was like, I saw it on. It's like, dude, it was nothing. And it's exactly what you were saying. It's the news has this objective, but as time goes on, they realize, no, the city is still standing. I mean, the lights didn't even flicker. It was not that big of a deal. And that's, I think that anecdote is on point to what you were saying.
By the way, speaking of which, remember the crane that fell off of Mercer Avenue?
The what? Who fell? Say that again. The last part.
There was this crane that was in South Lake Union, and it fell across a major thoroughfare where I think 4 people died, but like everybody jumped on that. Yeah,
they just hype it up, and the media does this because let's say the more eyeballs they have, the more advertising they can sell, and the whole that's
if
what it
bleeds
was.
It leads.
If it bleeds, it leads. That's right. If it bleeds, it leads.
And what?
Yeah, what's bleeding more than this?
So guys, I also did a podcast, a solo, a couple of weeks ago, and it was cognitive offloading. So cognitive offloading is a term. It means instead of having to remember, for example, a phone number, you just have to remember to go to the phone book and know how to look up a number. And another good example is like an AED, a defibrillator device. You just have to know where it is. And if you open it up, like I've done this, it'll tell you, here's the first thing to do this. And then there's a little screen. So the thing is, cognitive offloading, 30% of people now, they immediately go to the internet for information without trying to process anything first. It's outsourced, right? They're not trying to solve any of this, trying to do face validity. So this is something we just have to bring awareness to. In that podcast, I did that. I talked extensively, wrote a blog post about it, maybe, again, 2-3 weeks ago. And that's a thing, I think, as someone who's a safety expert, like my body of work, I've done 137 episodes. Each one of them, I do a 600-word blog post. If you read these, you're going to be safer, right? You're just going to have better agency and purpose. You're going to situational awareness, know your environment. And that's something too, as you take this and you go out and you interface with people, if you're like, if you just tell people things, get your network of people that can be a member check, tell you what authentically is happening. Use the word I observed. Understand, okay, so this is my part of my outline for a book, the velocity of information. I'm not going to show all of it here, but here's a few things though that I've started to rough out in the book. So the velocity of information, let me just get it a little
blue checks
here. So what happens is, and this is what I think what we have to really understand right now. Let me see in the private. Oh, this is good. Okay.
No, we got it. We can see it.
Yeah. Okay.
I can see it just fine.
Okay. So I have the velocity of information. So you get the first news, right? Everything is breaking. People are just giving you what they have. This is often only a fractional accurate, and then it gets corrected later on. Like, there was a shooting, here's how many people were injured or killed. Like, those are all guesses, like at the start until it's confirmed, or an earthquake and the damage and whatever it could be. A riot, what's burning, this all gets clarified objectively as time goes on. Like, we can count the number of whatever, we can quantify it. So people, where do they go? They go to the blue checks, or the people on Twitter. Aaron Clary has a blue check, right? But you go to the blue, go to Aaron Clary.
I automatically don't believe
we
him
always
now.
go to Aaron Clary to find out everything. But anyway, sorry, Jack.
No, it's funny. He's doing like 10 podcasts a day now. I can't keep up with him. It's like fractional currency. He's just like splitting down.
Yeah.
But so blue check. So people go to who they think. In a lot of people, their blue checks, it's their local news, or it's a CNN or ABC or whatever. But this is where they're going, and then they're also going to family or friends. But a lot of those family or friends are also just getting information from the blue checks. So they're just rehashing. Why heard this from ABC, NBC?
What is there a term for that? Where they're all feeding on their own?
Yeah, they're kind of. I don't know. I have to go back. I mean, I've got ancillary documents which attach to this. It actually, when you go back to 38 War of the Worlds and Orson Welles.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, aliens are invading here, and that's what the media is putting out. It's not until you see the flying saucers outside your front window,
Well,
or you have family or friend that said something that said such.
And part of it, Bacon, was, so yeah, people were calling each other and saying like, hey, like, is this happening? Like where you're at, phones
back. Murder hornets outside my front window.
But the amazing thing is, a lot of people were just saying yes. Like,
fascinating.
A psychologist at a university. Oh God. Let me just War of the Worlds.
I'm actually looking forward to reading this book.
Psychologist.
Hang on, I'll be right back. I'm gonna figure out what's making noise in the background.
Yeah. Okay. So this was Princeton University, in the Department of Psychology. There was a professor, and Cantrell Hadley was his name, or Hadley Cantrell. That's his first name, Hadley Cantrell. Okay. So what he did is he went out with a team of students who are like grad students. Okay. So what they're doing is they're interviewing people. And this is really pertinent right now. Again, if you're listening to this, take this information, share this out with people, share these kinds of things, because it helps people understand what face validity is, and also confirmation bias tied up. Okay. So Hadley Cantrell, who's this professor of like psychology at Princeton, and this kind of team, students, they're going out and they're interviewing people, just asking, what happened last night? What did you see? Tell me what happened. And they're telling them, yeah, we saw this, multi-legged, alien craft. It was walking across the fields, and farmers would take them to the spot and show them where the imprints were. And not only farmers, though, police officers said they were tracking this. People who
radar signatures.
So it's not that it was a lack of intelligence, right? It wasn't that someone, was completely bamboozled by this. This had a psychological impact of people wanted to believe this, and I think that's right now where what we're hearing is the whole country's burning. We're hearing everything is falling apart everywhere, and a lot of that's not accurate. That's just authentically not accurate. We know that
exactly.
No, yeah.
And
it's only the places that really deserve. I mean, it's the major cities. It's where you have it's the blue places that are burning, and not just those. Salt Lake City's burning.
Hold on, but
even a lot of major cities are burning at once. Not like everything's burning.
Right.
Not everything, no.
And authentically, we can quantify what actually is happening in these communities, right? Like we can actually look at on Google, like, here's the actual area that was impacted, which is maybe, 1% of Minneapolis by geographic space or something like that. So we can start to clarify things and start to we can ground ourselves back to reality. So this was something, though, again, after after War of the Worlds, like so many people just were convinced because they just had heard this information. They had called each other, and then they started to reinforce their positions. Because I mean, so if I call you and I say, hey, like this flying saucer, like that's over the U.S., I heard it was in Seattle. What, you don't see it? Like, I mean, I kind of make it like you're uninformed, because how can you not see it when everybody else has seen it? So there's pressure to go along with it. But this is where you have to stand up to people and say, authentically, I haven't observed this. My information, I have a different set of information. That's a good term to use. I use that with people. I say, I have a different set of information, apparently, than you do. So tell me what you have. I can share what I have, but my information doesn't lead me to the conclusion that you have. And that way you can preserve that relationship with people, not make them feel stupid and stuff like this. Because I think, if
you're not telling them that they're wrong. You're not saying you are wrong.
You say, I'm informed by a different set of information. I've used that a lot with people to just say, I think I have different information that you don't have. Like it's come to me, or I found a reason. So let me share that. Yeah, because that helps the dialogue out. Again, I'm talking relatives, friends, I do a lot of media, interviews. At least I did until apparently I got
until they banned you off of Twitter.
So let me just touch. Yeah, I'm still on LinkedIn though. It'll take nothing can get me off of that. But
so just wait 5 minutes. Yeah. Remember, Doc, you have bacon problems for the night.
So you're screwed now.
We go through. We have this initial 24 hours, where anything goes, because so much information is being pumped out there. People are just trying to get their foot in the door of getting information out there. So they seem like they know something. So this is where people stumble through the teleprompters. I saw that today. On the Madison news, on other news, of people trying to understand this. And also at the coronavirus, I saw that, I mentioned it in podcasts. People really struggle with the teleprompter, the information, the pace as they process things. That will settle down. A part of that is there's new terminology. Do we use rioters? Do we use protests? Do we use agitators? What are we using? How do we mix all of this in? What's authentic? What's not?
Hispanic?
And what? Oh,
remember they invented the new phrase "white Hispanic" for George Zimmerman. I was like, that was a brilliant thing. Do you remember that? No, I'd never heard that phrase before in my life. I was like,
no, John, you're right on, because Bacon and I did a show, and Bacon shared 15 new terms because of the coronavirus. Social distancing, quarantine, 6 feet apart, N95, all terms that we didn't use 3 months ago, and now they're part of our vernacular. I did a blog post, and Bacon had shared those.
We're all in this together.
Like 15, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of a rallying call. But nobody used social distancing, right? That wasn't a term in
the nomenclature. Yeah.
Right. So we go here, and the other part that we're going to see is that the media stories lose synchronization with events. You'll start to see stuff like this tomorrow. You'll see like an ad for some activity that's going on, like at a Target, and the Target's closed, or something that's happening on State Street, Madison, and State Street is closed. So you will see these things happen. Like this was happening during coronavirus. I was documenting all this. This will be in the book too, of like, they're saying, okay, like Friday night fish fry, whatever. But, the day before this commercial aired, the governor had closed everything down, all the restaurants. So it takes about 2-3 days for all this stuff to synchronize again. So the media is completely out of sync right now. And here's another thing, and this process is called scrubbing. So it's a lack of scrubbing. And scrubbing is basically where you would say, imagine the coronavirus, the governor shuts down all restaurants. And so you have to tell someone, hey, we have all these commercials set to run for restaurants and, these public events. They're not happening. You have to take them out of the queue so they don't play. And that wasn't happening. That was very incomplete. So
it's not happening now. I could tell you that.
So this is a sign of the velocity of information. You are in the velocity of information, the vortex, when there is a lack of scrubbing, because scrubbing will catch up. Like businesses will call and they'll say, don't put this on. Like we're closed. We don't want people coming down here. So these are all good indicators for people to look at and say, oh yeah, okay, I see what Dave's talking about here. This lack of scrubbing, this synchronicity is out, but it'll come back, and they'll also realize when it comes back, and then that moves them out of velocity of information. That starts to restore this torus. So again, digestion here is about 72 hours. The torus is what we're used to. We hit chaos and we hit self-similarity. We kind of did that with the coronavirus, but right now our self-similarity has been interrupted again. And a good way to study this again is kind of Chernobyl. If you looked at,
Dave, this is really in depth. You said you're just doing an outline. This looks like you've really.
I've got many documents that build into this.
Yeah, no, this looks so
I
more
can't wait to see.
I am. You don't have. You can send me the. I won't share it with anyone. I'll proofread that stuff. But go ahead, please go ahead.
Oh, no. And then just Chernobyl. And then there's also here this, I think, John, what you talked about, this is maybe a good way to put it, the psychology of not languishing. Or basically, there gets to be a point when people are not going to pity their situation anymore. There's just enough of this. And that's been through history of the Middle Ages to World War II to now is we're going to get this point of people just aren't going to languish. They're just going to start to become more solution oriented or pragmatic. It's like the Blitzkrieg bombing Britain. After a while, the Britons just got out and they started to deliver their mail during the day and pick up the pieces of their life, and then the next wave.
Well, a better example actually was the Germans. The life never, because what most people don't really realize was that the civilian bombing of Britain was actually tiny. The civilian bombing of Germany was ongoing throughout the war. But anyway, please continue.
Oh yeah.
And I have my own thoughts on this. I think you're being a little bit too hopeful on this.
I gotta be hopeful. I'm the safety doc.
He's got children.
I got a book to sell. No,
true.
Remember on Ghostbusters 2? You guys remember that though? Beckman had some guy on, and he was like, "When's the world going to end?" And the guy said like a month later. And Beckman's like, "Well, why would you say that? You're not going to be able to do a book tour and publicity stuff. Would you say like 2 years from now?" No, go on, guys.
Well, just to go back to what was the point? You brought up the whole War of the Worlds, whatever the hell it was called. Keep in mind, this is something I don't know if it was brought up, and maybe you guys can fact check me if I'm incorrect here. Didn't they put out a broadcast hours before they did the whole telenovela thing that this was just a parody? It was a play. It's not to be taken seriously, and people still freak the hell out.
Yes, sort of. That's half true. They did say that because actually it's based on a novel that was written, I think it was in 1898. Someone want to correct me on that?
And that far back, huh?
You're right.
1898, and so it was a modern adaptation of it, and they did say that at the like as a preface to the broadcast. And actually, if you listen to the broadcast, because I believe you can find at least parts of the original broadcast online. The time doesn't add up, like when they're talking about like the army engaging the aliens and stuff like that. It's happening like way too fast. It's like, when you're watching a movie and it takes place over you're watching the movie Godzilla and it takes place over 5 days and it's happening in an hour and a half. It's or however long Godzilla, whatever. You get my point. So anyway,
exactly.
Yeah.
Now that's taken into consideration. This is what people back. These are the silent generation people that later fought in one of the biggest wars we've ever had on the planet.
Right.
Now, what you're talking, maybe eventually, and we'll be hopeful for the purposes of your show and your future sales of your book here. Maybe we will become more solution oriented. Maybe we will stop worrying about, oh, Jesus Christ, panic, fear, everybody go burn everything down and steal some Jordans. And maybe some Kobe Bryant shoes or whatever. Keep in mind, we are dealing with unprecedented times. We have not had a population. Now, keep in mind, most populations, you've heard the tales before. Bad times build strong men. Strong men end up creating weak times. You've heard that before, correct?
Sure. No. You left a step out.
What's that?
You left a step out.
Oh.
No. Okay, weak times build strong men. Strong men create weak times. Weak times create weak men. Weak men build bad times. on and so forth.
Dude, you're getting it wrong. I'm just sorry, man.
Help him out. Tell him.
Help him in.
All right. Bad times build strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create bad times. And then the cycle starts again, I think.
Then
Right,
you nailed it. You nailed it.
You know what I meant. Anyways, thank you for clarifying, Nick.
Just bacon, as
We-
always.
We've been in the system for the last 60, 70 something years, where we've had pretty much damn near perpetual good times. Random recessions notwithstanding.
True.
Where we've been filling generation after generation after generation, and guess what? Coming online, generation of weaker and weaker and weaker people. Now, it may come to a point where, it will get to a point where, people will finally get sick to it, but we've never had a civilization like this until now. So I don't know what's going to come of that. I don't know how far things are going to have to fall, but I have to think that's going to be a factor. If we've had 60 years of just good times and not really having to worry about, I don't know, tilling your fields or hunting caribou or whatever, that's going to be an issue. Just my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know if there's an argument against that. I would say
It's just an observation. That's all.
we don't know how people rise to the occasion. I mean, there's some with the coronavirus. I mean, my neighborhood, a lot of people have put in gardens, like all up and down. A lot of good actually, manifested. Let's look at.
No, exactly. No, David, exactly. Though, like
we're using telecommunication. Yeah, I mean,
no, exactly. Like, look at all the good things that have come to us. And I'm not like this Pollyanna BS. I mean, Dave, you know me. I'm not this nice guy. I think everybody knows that about me. I mean, look, I've gotten to know people like yourself, like good, decent human beings, decent, great fathers, good husbands, just doing the right thing, caring for other people. There are people like you and other good people out there in the world that will rise to the occasion. I believe that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm dead. I hope I'm not, but I could be.
No, I'm not saying you're wrong, and I didn't say that for that to be just, we're all fucked, everybody go into your bunker. No, you were definitely right. There is another side of that. It is bringing out a lot of good in quite a few people, even up here in Seattle. Believe it or not, you have businesses trying to help each other. The men's room, mensroomlive.com. They've been putting them in the station they're on up here, KSW, 99.9 FM.
Oh yeah.
They've been putting together lists of restaurants that are open. Oh yeah. They've been putting together lists of restaurants that are staying open. They've been putting together lists of people who are hiring in case you're out of work. They've been highlighting all kinds of people. They've been doing a whole lot of good stuff here. Restaurants have been doing that for us. Hey, talk about a good side effect of this. My wine shelf that's in my fridge right now, because my wine cellar is now turned into summer heat, is completely stocked because there's been a fire sale on wines at all the restaurants. The wine I'm drinking right now. Hang on.
Nice.
Hang on a second. Fantini Sangiovis. I picked this up today when I went to pick up that pizza and meatballs at the local place. Talk about supporting the local business. That's what I'm drinking now. They've been doing all kinds of things. They've been helping. Other people. They're making masks. They have distilleries that are making hand sanitizer. Why they're making hand sanitizer instead of just making booze, I don't know. But they're doing everything to help. I'm not saying it's completely negative here. I mean, I'm just saying these are the people we're dealing with. Now, there are people there are a lot of businesses up here. There are a lot of people who are doing things that can help. They've been putting out messages of hope. Don't give up. We're going to get through this. Hokey as it may be, it is actually helping some people get through this kind of shit.
Yeah, Yeah, no,
Right.
I agree,
I-
and I feel you because I don't like the BS platitudes. Like, you know, when I hear like the Kardashians or like some billionaire movie star saying we're all in this together while they hide behind their ivory gates towers or something, you know,
I
that's
just made
crap.
fun of Kim Kardashian actually too.
Yeah, well, yeah, you know, we're all in this. Yeah, my ass. Yeah, you're, you know, with your private security and your, you know,
If we were
no,
on
but
this-
there are people who are, you know, so I don't want to give into this gloom and doom type of thing. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, yes, adapt to the situation and behave accordingly. But like, you know, don't surrender to despair. Look, if I'm going to go down, I got to go down fighting.
Exactly.
You know, that's just me.
Exactly.
Oh, right.
No, that's not. No, I'm definitely not saying that. Do not give. If you're listening to this goddamn show and you give up, you probably, even if you're not listening and you give up, you probably fucking deserve what's coming to you. You fucking fight until you can't anymore. You keep going until does it look like I'm giving up? I'm talking to you assholes while drinking wine and eating pizza. Fuck off. I'm giving up. No. Nick made it back to his place. He's doing fine. Safety Doc's in his basement doing his show.
Yep.
John still is run out of beer, but he's got enough bullets. I think he's going to be okay.
He's right in the middle of it. He's gonna be fine.
Right?
Don't tell the whole world I'm out of bullets. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I appreciate that.
Okay, maybe we spoke too soon, but I want to add one more thing to that.
Yeah.
It's like especially funny because Doc, at your core, you talk about school safety. What a lot of people are doing is they're essentially helping their kids with material they're struggling with, and this might suck for those who depend on school funding, but if what my parents and my brothers and my cousins are doing is any indication, they're eventually going to realize, hey, I kind of like being able to have more input into what my kid's learning.
Right.
Like, to give you an example, so my brother, he's 9, and his school went to Zoom. It's a private school, and so until recently, my mom was under the impression he was doing really good in math because the teacher showed this like really complex multiplication thing with Common Core methodology that he did. But they realized like my brother was struggling with the basic multiplication that he should have down. He was still kind of fuzzy on what multiplication is. But since my mom especially was like, okay, well, the teacher's not doing anything, she took it upon herself. Like, she holds him to a schedule. She makes sure he learns the things he does and completes his assignments. And as a result, like, she's slowly realizing, it's like, wow, I kind of like knowing what my child's learning. Because
Right.
like, now I don't have to worry that he's not learning what he should because I'm teaching him what he should learn. And
Wait, are you saying parents are actually starting to enjoy being parents?
I don't know about that.
I mean, wait a minute.
God forbid.
We actually care about the people we brought into this world? Are you saying that's finally happening?
Not quite there yet. I mean, my mom does, but that's not the point. The point is like, now that because the schools are essentially at home right now, like even parents who don't care about their kids, they're getting to take a long, hard look at what the lesson plans look like, what the worksheets they look like, and what the child is being expected to do. And they're realizing, I could do better than that. And especially people who are in private school, like my little brother, they're thinking, wait a minute, why am I paying all this tuition for that? So,
no, actually, that's probably more profound than even you realize.
yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
To close it out, my brother was struggling with multiplication. It took him a little while, but my mom put in a lot of hard work because she still has her job that she's working remotely on top of it, by the way.
Sure.
But after like a month or two of this, my little brother is pretty much caught up to speed on multiplication. Think about that for a second.
Yeah. And one of the things, frankly, was with American education, the school system, is it's kind of like a boat, right? When you first build it, you refine it. It's a pretty good vessel, and then over time, it gets retrofits, barnacles get on it, and this is the event that's kind of shaken all of that off, right? All of this ancillary stuff that really didn't need to be a part of of education. I was talking about it in a podcast where local district had passed a referendum for an AstroTurf, field with like 2 people, $80,000 a year salary to maintain this thing. And I'm like, you just don't need this, right? You get so far removed of what really is important and critical is learning how to read, understanding information decoding, and especially right now, validating your sources of information, having, math, coding skills, some of these things versus all these ancillary things, which somehow became part of education.
I have my own thoughts on that, but please continue.
No, but before, and I want to take this down so somebody doesn't copy this and write the book before I get it out there. But there's something.
It's been up for like an hour.
Right, it's gone. It's already out in like 4 countries. In 3 languages.
You give up the whole outline.
It's in 3 languages already.
It's on Kindle now.
it's on protest banners all across half the country right now. Cascade effect for information. Oh my God, where did that start? So here's the deal. So anyway, I was talking about this cascade effect for information. So I want to throw out another term before I take this down because it's relevant. So TAZ, it's highlighted, temporary autonomous zone. TAZ is basically something which just creates itself. And here's an example. On September 11th, 2001, the attack of the Twin Towers in New York Harbor around Battery Park for about 9 hours. 150 boats got together, ferry boats, tugs, leisure boats, whatever, and they rescued they transported 500,000 people from Lower Manhattan, so like Battery Park, off of the island, like over to New Jersey, other places, and they did that in 9 hours. No directions, just like get a boat, do a rescue. The
largest amphibious evacuation in human history.
Yeah. So the thing is, if you
did not need a government program to do too, just to throw that out there.
Right. If you deconstruct this, it's like, how did this work? Because you had no game plan for this. You had vessels which were not designed to interface with each other. You didn't have gangplanks on Battery Park, so you had a makeshift, with doors and stuff like that. You had to take sheets and put them on the side of boats.
Yeah, that was a great video on that when they showed them walking. I'm sorry.
Tom Hanks narrated. Yeah. Boat Lift is the video by Rosenstein. It's 11 minutes long on YouTube. It's really great. But if you deconstruct that, it's like, how did it happen? Like, how you could never design things to be that way. And that's part of also right now is people have to realize there'll be a temporary autonomous zone. Systems do develop. They will develop. You have to kind of go with them, what things will look like, and then it'll settle. That system will kind of fade away. There'll be a TAS which will develop. And we're kind of in that situation right now. I don't know what it is. Nobody in the moment kind of realizes that it just kind of goes away. Systems will develop. Apollo 13, Saigon, the frequent wind rescue. That was back in what the hell was it, in the 70s? So in Saigon, frequent wind was they evacuated Americans out of Saigon and I think like nationalists and stuff out of Saigon, and they got them on the boats and stuff. And there was too many helicopters on the boats. Like, I don't know, they weren't aircraft carriers, but they were boats that also had helicopters on them.
Littoral combat ships or something like that.
Yeah, something like that, or LSTs or whatever.
Well, they end up putting the helicopters in the ocean. Is what they did.
So here's the deal, as John said, in the moment they decided to push these things over into the ocean. What happened out of that? And I did a blog post on this because I did a podcast on it too. You can find it. You just type in whatever inside it, you'll find it. Again, all free, right? But what happened is everybody received a commendation for that. They received a medal for acting, decision-making in the moment. And no one had to be afraid that they were going to be reprimanded for pushing these expensive pieces of equipment over to save lives. And I think that's part of the thinking too of what's happening right now. To do the right thing, you have to remind people you're not going to be penalized for doing the right thing. You can make decisions. Yeah. I don't know what that looks like exactly as this unfolds, but we have to be very overt with people. We have to just tell them, if you do the right thing, you act in your best interest and best interest of others, and use some of these scenarios. Like, actually give this so they can contextualize what you're talking about. So there was this thing in Saigon, they were rescuing and the boat was too many people were coming on. It was starting to go too low in the water. So they just pushed these, and then they made room and rescued people. people understand that. They can relate to that. They understand what a helicopter is about, these stories. But see, nobody tells these. Like, I tell these stories, I write about them. We don't hear about this in school. The media doesn't talk about this. They're not trying to anchor you to points in time of other things to help make sense of what happens now. It's called benchmarking or projected benchmarking, to say, well, when this happened, so again, I think I add value to the conversation when I can do that, because like you guys have this down, but then people that listen to this, and people will contact me from all over the world, and they'll just say, hey, I caught one of your podcasts, listened to a few, and I think a little bit differently now, or I frame things differently. I've seen more of your work, read your blog posts, and maybe, hopefully it's contagious, right? Hopefully people take that and they exercise those best practices, or at least it makes them think differently about things. Am I seeing things? Am I being sucked into confirmation bias? Is this the velocity of information that's going on right now? I need 72 hours. I know it's uneasy. I feel jittery. I feel like I should be doing something. I'm anxious. Okay, that's normal. Dave, talks about it. So, and I mean, I've benefited from so many great people, right? But I guess you're right, John. It's too. It's like, I'm 48. I've lived a lot of life. I've done a lot of stuff, and I need to accept my role in getting information out to people, so they can feel good about what they're doing, and they can have a basis for doing things.
Well said, Doc.
I got a question real quick. Just to build off of that point, Nick. How do I end every show? What do I say at the end of every show?
The last thing you say before you cut the stream is "Be chaos, my friends."
Be chaos.
Be chaos.
I put that in the chat there. But it is exactly what you said. Once you learn how to deal with chaos, once you learn how to deal with just things, you don't know what the hell is going on, but you have yourself in order, and you can actually figure out things real time, really interface people. You end up being a focal point where everyone else can actually look up to you. Yeah, what do we do? Yeah. Things really go to hell, and then John Still's the only goddamn person who has things in order. Guess who everyone else is going to be looking at?
You're right on that, Bacon. And the other part is acknowledging that you are in chaos, like that the situation has become chaotic. And chaotic doesn't necessarily mean, it basically means your options are simplified. Like the dam broke, I can go here, I can drown. I mean, your options are simplified. But here's the thing is, a lot of people, they don't embrace chaos, or they do it too late. On 9/11 in the Twin Towers, Amanda Ripley interviewed hundreds of survivors, and she was asking what they did once the towers were struck. And it was amazing. Some of these survivors talked about their coworkers who didn't make it out of the building, and they said, yeah, my coworker went back to their desk and they had to save all of their files, because if it wasn't saved, that they
that was so true. No, because I
don't remember that.
So it's the psychology of not acknowledging that you are in chaos. And I was in a very serious car accident on January 18th of 2019. I know the date because it was a date my book was accepted for publication that morning, and that afternoon I was almost killed in a car accident. And this the moment this started to unfold in front of me, and I knew I would be a part of it. In an instant, I accepted I was entering chaos. A good 2-3 seconds before my car was collided with, of many collisions of that event. And the fact was, psychologically, when it was done, I was able to locate my phone, call 911, and give them a very intelligent, lucid, what had happened, and then also what they should dispatch, because I was a firefighter. I'm like, you should dispatch these units, whatever. And when they came on scene, they're like, are you the guy that called in? And they're like, you're really cool for almost being killed and, all damaged up and stuff like that. And it was and I think it's because of my work, obviously, in safety, right? And I was writing the book in chaos theory, and I just made that split-second decision. I'm entering chaos. Okay, I'm now in chaos. There were moments I couldn't control, vehicles spinning around, damaged glass everywhere, stuff like that. And then when it's done, systems will develop. Police started to show up. I inventoried my resources. Okay, am I okay? Can I get out of here? What's happening to people around me? You go through these steps. But again, you have to overtly tell people these things. You have to share these stories with them. They have to listen to this type of podcast, and then something happens to them. Or right now, if they're in an urban area or some area where this is happening, they start to think through things in a different way. Instead of, again, 30% of people default immediately to the media right now for their information, and they never
That's it.
But I mean, this could be anything though, Bacon. It could be, what is the capital of Washington? I mean, it's not. It could be anything that they're. So it's a really high number. Like if you take it over what people are, how many quarts in a gallon or something. I mean, just anything, any piece of information. But
so basically, what you're saying is, just going back to the situation you were talking about, going through the car accident and all that. You embraced the chaos. You saw this coming, at least a little bit. You knew things are going to get crazy, and therefore, accepting all of that, you were able to take command of the situation. You were able to assess the damage. You knew who needed to be called. You knew what the other people needed to do. You took command.
Oh, I did.
Because you accepted the chaos as part of the situation.
Well, can I just say he worked the chaos? Anyone disagree with that? He worked through it.
I mean, he kept his head, basically. Just
right.
think about, all right. A lot of it's common sense, too. It's like, I mean, you had firefighter training, so you could be
I don't know about common, but okay.
But and then you merge with the other people on the scene and what their assets are and what they're able to do and what they have. And you tell people, shut your vehicle off because, it could start on fire, or you could have gases that are coming inside the vehicle for carbon monoxide. So
just stay rational.
You stay rational.
As you, but if I was in an accident, I'd accept it. I'd be like, all right, well, I should probably call 911. Pretty much just think, as long as you're rational, think, okay, what should I probably do? And you'll probably be right.
Well, that's the thing, Nick, right? So most of us will make the correct choice. It's tacit knowledge that we have. Our instincts, we rely on our instincts. This was proven with a study with firefighters back in the 70s in Los Angeles. Klein was the researcher. I forget his first name, but anyway, he had a number of grad students placed at firehouses, and they went out on calls with firefighters back when you could do that, like when the TV show Emergency was on and you could do all this firefighting stuff you could never do today. But
they're called ride-alongs, and they existed up until very recently.
Yeah. No, so it was a research purpose, and the purpose was that they would examine every time decisions were made by firefighters. Then they would try to figure out what was the antecedent, what led you to that decision. And one that they came up to was when firefighters would be on the roof of a building, what would be the decision process of time to get off the roof? It might collapse. It's not safe anymore. And it actually was very complicated. Like they would interview firefighters and they would say, so like, do you measure this? Is there some tool you have? And they're like, no. Is there like a call from below from the chief or someone watching this, an engineer who's telling you the building's unstable? Sometimes, but not always. Well, like, how do you know? And they're like, we just know. You just know. There's this tacit, there's innate knowledge. And they would give them stuff
all
like,
real time.
Here's word charts, pick from words, pick from sounds. Does this sound familiar? They were trying to link anything to it. It was really well done research, but the conclusion of it was funded by the military actually to try to transfer into how soldiers in combat could recognize things and make decisions. But anyway, Klein did a great job with this. And the conclusion was our tacit knowledge of what, our past experiences, how we can apply them to things, our instincts, they're really good. And we got to trust them because most of the time they'll be right if you trust your instincts. Not all the time, but most of the time. And we're told so often, don't trust your instincts, try to overanalyze things, go to all of these steps and things. And for these guys, that would have killed them, right? If you had to go through like 8 steps or whatever to get off of a roof, like you'd have more people dying. Because it was very rare that anybody died because they fell through a roof. And if they did, it usually was a situation where it was they were taking a very known overt risk. Like other parts.
Bring up a very good point.
So there's something in this too, that if we have these discussions about part of this, I mean, let's think about it. I mean, most of these people in these big cities, they don't know what chaos looks like. I mean, outside of like a power
they do
outage.
now.
But they will have to think about this, and they'll process this, and there'll be some similarity which will start to make sense. This velocity of information will make sense after 72 hours, 96 hours, whatever. There'll be some things that will be positive out of this. I don't know what those are, but like coronavirus, there were things that came out of that were positive. I mean, one thing that's coming out, like if I'm licensed, I'm licensed in the state of Wisconsin to do different educational things, and now I'm licensed to do those across other states. I don't have to go through all these hoops, which should have been automatic anyway. If I'm licensed to be a superintendent in Wisconsin, why do I have to take different courses to be a superintendent in Washington State? That doesn't make sense. So we will see some aspects of this which will be positive. I don't know what those are, but they will be there, of some community, relations, different ways of people, protesting, communications, ways that things are designed, responses. I mean, who knows? I mean, who knows? Maybe there's some riot that comes up and they document people. I mean, maybe what if someone comes up with this idea of, we want a documentary, so we're going to take rioters and have them come over and tell their story, and you have 50 people set up in a secured environment, and they're taking 5-minute clips, and they're saying, we're going to put this into a documentary and I mean, who knows what's going to happen? People will start spinning these wheels. So I think we've got to realize these things will happen. Just like coronavirus was a hopeless pit when March 15th, and today, yeah.
No, David, I think that's sorry to talk over anybody, but no, that's very important. I don't want it to be all like this doom and gloom kind of thing. I think it's really important because there are good people out there doing the right thing, and we have to remember that. Now, that's not saying that there is that I'm not ignoring all this horrific stuff that has happened tonight and the last, I don't know, was it 3 nights before that? Right. But at the same time, let's focus on what we can control, and let's see how we can make it better. And there, I have the privilege of knowing David. I don't even know how we got to know each other, but I have this great privilege of getting to know you, and my life is better for it. And I hope,
likewise. Yeah. Thank you.
Same here with me and all of you guys.
It's funny.
And to go back to what Safe Dog, you reminded me of this, and I'm glad you did.
Okay.
But talk about some of the positive things that have happened here. Think about the whole Corona crisis for a second. Think about what's happened ever since that's taken hold of the nation, if not the world. What has been shown as non-essential, as opposed to actually being essential? Now, apparently, me delivering food here, that's apparently considered essential frontline work. Today, damn near quite literally. But, guess what? Parents are being allowed to actually go back to raise their children. All this bloatware that you've talked about in school, all that is starting to go away.
Yeah,
a lot of the political talking points, the vegans, the environmentalists, a lot of that has been pretty much tampered down. Think about what's been caught out, since then.
Yeah, and I just want to add to that. Look what's happening in schools. Like, I liked your analogy earlier. Like the education system is like a boat in a few different ways. The first thing I thought of is, what are the 2 happiest days of a boat owner's life, right?
Day buys it, day sold it. I have owned a boat. I know.
And I realized
day he bought it and the day he sold it. Dude, I'm there.
2 happiest days of your life are your first day of school in preschool, and then the day you graduate.
Right. How many people here, can anybody here tell me that they were happier in school than, say, I don't know, summer vacation? Or, I don't know, in my case, like I went to Inglewood High School, and twice a year we would have a bomb threat and we would get let out like at noon.
But
and everybody was happy about that.
Yeah, but that was just kind of a joke. On a more deeper note, what is another thing that all boat owners complain about but is very important if you own a boat? It begins with an M.
Maintenance, right?
Right.
Moorage?
Yeah.
Maintenance, yeah.
I was going to say moorage might be.
Right.
Which is kind of maintenance anyway.
Probably
boat,
close second.
it's like the biggest thing you'll have to do a lot of with a boat is maintenance. Maintain it and all that.
Winterize it, yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is, boats are cool, but they're not going to last if you don't maintain them. Similarly, if parents don't really take a long, hard look at what their children are learning and where they really are in terms of math and stuff, shit goes wrong. And so because my little brother's classes are on Zoom, my mom got to take a really long, hard look at what he was learning, realized he was falling behind in math, but because she knows he's falling behind in math, he was able to pretty much bring him up to speed. And so
that's
it's really
good. That's a positive story.
If that makes sense.
That's an important thing. You know what? It went from your little brother being put into what was basically daycare into actually seeing what's being taught online. And by the way, that's just being shown what's being taught online, not what's going on in the actual schools themselves. I don't know. You guys ever hear of this thing called bullying? I don't know if this went out of style, by the time I went out of school, but it was pretty fucking prevalent when I was there.
Sure. Bullying is eternal.
And that's just with the peer-to-peer stuff. We're not even talking about what the goddamn teachers did.
Right.
Now, if you listen to Gary Dito, they cover a lot of times like what the teachers actually do with the children there, which you don't normally hear in the media. That stuff's not happening anymore. Because guess who's not in the goddamn schools?
Right.
And one thing, when Nick was on my show recently, he talked about, are we going to have to, build these large office buildings and bring all these people together in these dense areas, just for work, or we'll be working from home more? And obviously it looks like we're not going to need to build these big buildings. Right. You're going to be able to work from home. So that has these ripple effects on maintenance of those type of things and people's time and schedule and congestion. So
true, yeah.
I feel like it's going to be more gradual than I thought when I was on your show, though, because a lot of it depends. I mean, some companies like built their own office buildings, like it's specifically their building, whereas other companies just kind of like rent office space or a floor.
Right.
So I'm thinking.
Not to mention the restaurants that thrive off of these buildings too, Amazon and South Lake Union.
But I'm thinking a building is one of those things where you have to pay to maintain it and pay rent whether you use it or not. Like if I left this apartment for 2 months, I'd have to pay rent for it whether I was there or not.
Right.
A building is the same way. And so, right in Pullman, there's this engineering firm called Schweitzer Engineering Labs. They have pretty much their own campus of their own. It's almost as big as Wazoo's campus. The thing is...
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. A lot of those engineers could probably work from home unless they're doing manufacturing. So technically, once they're at home, Schweitzer doesn't need to call them back. But then I thought, well, look at it from Schweitzer's perspective. You do not spend however many millions of dollars to build, a giant campus for your employees and just mothball 90% of it. Because that's just a waste. So I think they're going to slowly call people back. But yeah, they're going to be looking into ways to use the office space anyway. Because that's another thing I didn't really take into account the first time. Because, you can't exactly, even if you're renting office space, you can't pull out of the lease. So they're more inclined to use it, at least until the lease expires.
And this goes back into what I was saying earlier. Go ahead, John. My bad.
No, I'm sorry. Dave, didn't you talk about this, about how the tax revenue won't be able to fund, because you were talking about specifically the schools,
right?
But that would apply to municipal infrastructure in general, won't be able to support, what's going on, especially now after, because two things are happening, right? Your tax revenue is going down, right? Because, you burn down a store, well, those people can't work anymore. They can't pay taxes. At the same time, you have, there has to be infrastructure has to be rebuilt, which requires taxpayer money. So, how does that circle get squared is kind of, on the local level, because is the federal government just going to come in and write a blank check for everybody? I don't know how that's going to work.
Who knows? All bets are off these days.
Because think about it. Like, in Washington, Inslee, you ever notice, like, he says, "Oh, we're going to reopen based on science," and his science. God! Don't you? Hang on. You ever notice his science seems to be the exact opposite of whatever Donald Trump just said?
No kidding.
Funny how
Okay.
that works.
So,
Right?
but here's the thing. So, like, Inslee's the kind of person doing that. But, like, 5 days later, he's also the kind of person that says, the federal government has a responsibility to give us money to help us rebuild.
Oh, Jesus. Well, just real quick, I just wanted to say, this goes back into what I was saying. Here's the positive things that this is revoked. How many people who are now working at home could have just been doing that, like Eric Clary said, 10, 15 something years ago, and I've been saying for the last 4 or 5 years, you could have been doing a lot of what most people are doing at home instead of commuting down, putting out all these fossil fuel CO2s or whatever that you said are killing the environment in the meantime. No, you all could have telecommuted to work. You could have saved 2, 3, maybe 4 hours of getting yourself ready, making yourself lunches, and then driving to and from work, being pissed off in traffic,
Well, I mean,
and then having to deal with
as,
people, having to deal with HR, possibly dealing with some goddamn sexual harassment lawsuits because you asked Susie to go file some papers or whatever. Now, all that's now gone. All of it's gone. Most of these people who can't work at home are now working at home. Now, like Nick said, you have this leased office space. You got these terms here. You got to stay there for a year or whatever. So maybe you'll make some other use of it. But you know what? For the first time, I'm actually hopeful this time. Maybe these people will actually allow these people who Twitter said this. You people who are working at home, if you work for Twitter, you have the option of just working from home from now on. That may happen. That may be a new normal. That may be a positive thing that comes out of this.
Yeah, I think.
How much revenue is that going to clear up?
Yeah,
Dave.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. These things will come into play, and so I guess I'm sitting here with the wheels kind of spinning. I'm trying to figure what.
I think
so
we took you a few different directions.
If we think about what's happened, in the last few days here, I guess now kind of is the quad, brain trust here. If we look to the horizon, I mean, what are some things that we might anticipate of change? I'm not saying that we're quantifying change as good or bad, but what might change because of what's happened?
Well, let's have a roundtable. Let's do it. Everybody give their 2 cents, like kind of quickly. What do you think they're going to be? I want to know what Nick has to say. What is his 2 cents? Like he wants to think like what's going to happen in the next 6 months to 2 years. What's going to change?
Yes, we want the grade school student to go first here. Go for it.
I want to put him on the spot because I dig his glasses. Actually, it's reminding me of that that movie from Sin City, the kid from Sin City. What was that movie? You know the movie I'm talking about with Mickey Rourke and
I think so. I don't think it's more Artemis Fowl, but they have the movie like that coming up. But okay.
Okay,
well now he's disappearing.
Is he coming back? He's got the glasses on. Oh my God!
Here we go.
What I'm talking about. All right, Nick. All right, you're on, brother. I want to hear it, and let's be respectful because we're on Dave's channel, so don't get gross or anything. But I want to hear your 6 months to 2 years prediction about if anything you think are going to be semi-permanent changes because of what's been going on, and they might keep going on. We don't know. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow night.
Well, the first 2 months is a little bit hard to predict because everybody's still kind of not sure about COVID. But I think because you know how some malls are just kind of abandoned, save for 1 or 2 stores. I think we're going to see a lot more of that. And I think that was
a long time coming. Sorry to throw that in there, but
I know this has been happening for a while. But I think COVID and all this other stuff is really speeding it up. In the next 2 years, I'd say in terms of doing things remotely, employers are going to get more lenient, especially since, like right now, even if you're a good worker, you could be, your production could be, stilted because you have to take care of your kids. But yeah, I think especially right now, schools are just going to stay closed simply because we don't know what's going to happen because Wazoo's committed to distance learning for the summer, which means we're guaranteed to have everything remote until the fall. Because it's really easy to start as an in-person class and say, "Oh, just kidding, we have to go online." Right. But it's a lot harder to then say, "Oh, just kidding, we're having in person again."
So Nick, let me take you a step, kind of pivot you in another direction. So I think you're nailing right on a discussion about how's COVID going to change things, and maybe with a blend of some of the protests involved. Like it's going to be a liability to own space in a mall or retail shop. So for some people that'll clip. Maybe how about just what do you think is happening in the last week with the social unrest? What do you see? Because you're in tune to this stuff. You have a good way of looking. I mean, when you're on my show and you're talking about stadiums, there's some engineer probably already working on something that would come down and sanitize an entire stadium. I'm thinking Pfizer Forum in Milwaukee. I'm like, oh my God. You see things in such a way. I mean, that's the benefit of doing the show is I get enriched by, people like you share information. John Steele tell me, hey, use a TTY line if you ever really need information, because it'll always answer that one.
But TTY line.
Anyway,
anyway,
that's on show 78. Anyway. But that's on show 78. But anyway, what do you think? You're not held to anything on this, right? Because none of us know. But let's try to get out of all of this and say, yeah, what are some things that could be societal different, structural different, policing different, education different because of the last week?
Well, because of the last week, I think people are going to be trying to reopen a lot quicker. Because I know some of this is police brutality. I haven't followed the whole thing with the foot on the knee or something, on the neck or something. Sure. But
don't bother.
I have seen people revolting. I have seen people revolting just because some states or counties are being really slow to reopen. It's I remember maybe Bacon and John have heard of this, but Snohomish County basically said "F you" to the governor. We're gonna kind of.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna see more of that, because this is what happens when you keep people inside too long.
So I think you got a good point on that. I'm gonna. So here's another thing. I don't know if I spell autonomous right. So what you're saying is local, whether city or region, they're going to be more autonomous in their decision making. I mean, instead of waiting for a governor. So that is actually going to ripple through their police departments and how they're interacting with people in their community. So how
eventually,
communities are going to start interacting probably much more unilaterally with their citizens and people versus a consistency across communities.
Right. Well, hold on a second, though. Nick, is that what you're guessing, that you will have that? I'm sorry, Dave.
No,
I'm guessing because I've seen it. I've seen people revolting against Inslee's stay-at-home order. I've seen him walk back from oh no, we can't go by county approach. That would be too decentralized. To oh yeah, some counties can apply to move to phase 2.
Okay.
And then if you've noticed, he's actually kind of loosening his standards too.
Well, he's getting so ambiguous. I don't know what the fuck he's telling me anymore.
Exactly. His standards. I'm
sorry to curse, but I didn't. I just read the thing he wrote from his office the other day. I'm not sure what it means. It's written in Chinese.
It might as well be.
The larger point is, if enough people will revolt, Inslee has backed off on his stuff. Originally, in order to reopen early, you had to have a population of less than 75,000 people and no new cases in at least 3 weeks.
Right.
Now his standards are a lot more loose. So the only reason he did that was because
pushback.
The longer he just tried to shut everything down. Because I think if he had his way, he'd just keep everything shut down until there's a vaccine.
Yeah.
But
so then the torches and pitchforks will really start coming out.
But basically, it's the people and the more localities just trying to exert their own will and taking matters into their own hands.
some more decentralized, government control.
Right.
Actually, so in Wisconsin, like that's a big thing with school districts, right? There's 421 school districts, and one is on an island with 50 kids, Washington Island. But the reason you got to go through really choppy waters to get there too. My friend,
you know
was
what's really funny is they have 47. They have 47 people on their PTA board, but I'm sorry,
right? And artificial turf, but but the thing is,
their own football team.
So there's a lot of local control that is just part of that. Like school boards get to make a lot of decisions in Wisconsin. Although, like when you look at it on some aspects, it's kind of weird. Like, why do we have to create this policy, and then 420 other districts have to replicate this policy about hot lunch or, a distance that we pick kids up for buses? Or I teach these classes, right, of aspiring superintendents, and so I see a lot of this inefficiency. But at the same time, you do have a lot of local control. You can shape things to the flavor of your environment, your context, which is really pretty cool versus, a school in a large urban area, and that process you would replicate identical in this island, right, of 40 kids or whatever. It wouldn't make sense. So I think another thing you brought up, and I wrote it down so I didn't forget it, but I think you brought up a really cool point here, Nick, is when we look back at this time, like this week in particular, maybe, in 6 months or a year, there could be this thing where people are saying this was really a comorbid event, right? Because there were a lot of counties, a lot of cities, states uncertain about lockdown, who was in lockdown, who wasn't, and that's a form of oppression, right? That was happening at the same time as the protest because of police brutality and not having your voice heard if you're a person of color. So maybe these two things are comorbid, and it's exacerbated by COVID-19 and the inconsistencies in the cities and the states, like that had been a prime. So I think that's a good thing that we'll look back on. Like, would this be to the extent it is right now if people weren't already, how much of this is
how much of it is that pent-up pressure? I think
is pent-up pressure, which is maintaining this and manifesting it to the level
several
it's
people
at.
Bring that up.
I think it's a great point, Nick, because people are making these two separate events, and maybe they're really not. Maybe this is local control, oppression, who's making decisions, which is a deeper root at all of this. I don't know. I'm just saying, though, if we don't have these discussions, like, where do they happen, right? So,
Right.
No, but I think we're done. Nick, by the way, brilliant shit. By the way,
yeah, Nick, thank you.
Thanks, guys. This means a lot coming from everyone who's older than me.
Hey, just because you're older doesn't mean you're smarter. Trust me. But everybody, let's finish because I got to check out. So everybody finish.
It's only 3:11 in the morning here.
It's only 3:11 in the morning. So everybody, finish your thoughts. Who's next? Bacon. Bacon. I want your thoughts. 6 months to 2 years, if anything different.
6 months, 2 years. It should be noted, since you bring it up, we are now past the 3-hour mark, which means I have graduated into making margaritas here.
Woo! So proud.
With or without salt?
Without salt, because I'm in the studio and I don't feel like going to grab the salt rimmer.
Okay, good to know.
So forgive me for that faux pass there. So I threw in the chat and Safety Doc put it up. Ghost restaurants and malls. Now Nick had brought up the malls being slowly going down in decline. With the COVID thing really accelerating things. Now, boots on the ground, there are several restaurants that used to service, before this went through. Only 1 or 2 of them are still alive. And they're being moved into places like, there's a place called Din Tai Fung. I think there's one in Portland. There's a couple in California. And most of them are in like Japan and China. But the one I service now, one is in his original location up in U District, over in the UW area. The other one is what was it, Pacific Place, I think? And they're operating out of what used to be the Barnes and Noble.
Oh, okay. I know exactly. University Village.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one's operating U-Village, just operate at the same place, but the other one's operating out of an old library, basically. And that's the only way they're able to stay open. And they're doing the same thing, selling bottles of wine, some growlers to go, etched beer, etched wine glasses, all that kind of stuff.
But come on, 6 years and 2 months. What's up?
So the thing I brought up was the ghost restaurants, and that's been going on for a while now, apparently. So back to Nick's point of, you have this real estate that you're still paying a lease on, you still have like a year, 9 months, or 6 months to go with. A lot of these people, they're going to be running restaurants, that aren't really open to the public, but people are delivering from. That may be something that end up coming out of this.
So, like, that's the norm? Like, someone designs a restaurant specifically made to just be delivery or something?
Correct. That's what the whole ghost restaurant thing is. Now, I've not personally delivered for any of these, but, all bets are off at this point. I think, as I said before, I think a lot of the people who are now working at home who are previously required to telecommute to cubicles and offices and all this other stuff, a lot of these people are going to at least apply to just continue to work at home. We might have more internet, not real estate, but what do you call it? Basically, we'll invest more in internet at home.
Bandwidth.
So we continue doing their jobs at home rather than having to go commute. And then again, to Nick's point, more people might actually start paying more attention to what their kids are actually learning in elementary, in high school, or whatever the heck else they're going into. Are you being taught how to do, mathematics and multiplication with it, or are you being taught that white males are racist no matter what? That could happen, there's going to be a lot less road travel. There's probably going to be less road construction because, there's no traffic to uphold anymore. All kinds of things could happen. All bets are off at this point. I mean, I was saying early on, like, you know what? This is the same society. And, John, you remember this. Remember Snowpocalypse?
No, yeah.
Good old
Now, I don't know if you got out to any of the stores, but I certainly did. And by God, I kid you not, I saw people. I just went in for like a can of soup and like some other stuff I need to get. I walked into people shoveling cans of soup and vegetables and chili and all this kind of stuff into their carts, literally shoveling armfuls of it. Like, people were panicking out of their freaking minds. Now, you would think after an event like that, people would have learned from that. Oh, no. Guess what happened a year later? Coronapocalypse. And they're doing the exact same things. Buying up all the toilet paper. There's still no alcohol, actually, no isopropyl alcohol available at any outlet you go to. Trust me, I checked. There's still a whole lot of stuff that's not available, but you remember the outages. This is the same population that went through an apocalypse, again, acutely, as the safety doc will bring up. It was only about like a week or 9 or 10 days or something. But you would think they would have learned that. Oh, no, they didn't. So my thought was, what, we're not going to learn a damn thing from that. But you know what? As you're saying, we're going through this, and now we're going through other things. Murder hornets being introduced. Now some black guy got killed by the cops, and now we have to riot in every major city. And things are just going to go on from there. I think things will continue. We might actually see some changes out of this. So, 2 years, really, all bets are off. I can't predict the future, but we might have a lot more work at home.
So,
whether it's for our own safety or just better convenience, and maybe we can actually, hang out with our children, play baseball for once,
right.
Or, maybe the kids actually learn to study from home. Maybe,
well,
you brought up, what kids are actually being taught in schools and what parents are actually seeing. And, hey, wait a minute. Maybe they don't need to be learning this. Or, hey, maybe they're not actually learning anything here or not learning at the speed that they need to be. And here, I'm actually doing a better job. Hey, maybe the kids will actually be taught better. Who knows?
Or if they're paying tuition, why am I paying so much tuition for this?
Exactly.
Right.
All right. Is it okay?
Sorry,
I want to get Dave's 6 months to 2 years, and you're just spitballing here. No one's holding you to this. Yeah, just
Right. So one is, I think we're going to see an increase in frequency of I don't want to say protest, but it's going to be community gatherings, input sessions. I think if you're a community where riots, protests happen right now, most of those, maybe 30,000 or above, they're going to put some process in place to have more frequent interaction with people voicing their opinions. And, this is kind of passive now. People can fill out surveys, they can run for a seat on a board or something. But that's, again, as an expert witness, a lot of the stuff that's passive, people aren't going to do that. So you got to meet them at what they're going to do. So I think you're going to see, as you guys have already touched upon, and we saw this with the reopening with COVID, but I think we're also going to see this now with the protests being violent in cities. Cities are going to figure out how they want to interface with their citizens and make up their rules, their protocols for that, what their police force looks like. And I think that's going to start to vary greatly from city to city. I don't know, again, what that'll look like, but I don't think you're going to have, here's what we have for state of Wisconsin, here's whatever. I think things will fragment down very small into the unit of measure will be the city or the precinct or whatever. I think you're going to see a reintroduction of beat cops. You're going to see an investment in that. That was very effective for a number of years, right? You knew that if you had beat your cops walking around neighborhoods and people were interacting, not in vehicles, but walking around neighborhoods.
No, I think what you're saying is when you actually knew the name of the
you knew the name of the cop, right?
Yeah.
That you were
Officer O'Malley. How are you?
How are you? You were much more likely to share information and then also to comply. Right now, the police, for the most part, are very abstract. You're more invested. And so that relationship has become very abstract. And part of that is technology, right? I mean, we saw it in the COVID stuff in Bellevue, Washington. Just go online. If there's a social gathering greater than 5, you can drag the Google map over. I made a video of it. I took it off.
I remember that.
But
so I remember
I think this investment in the beat cop, approach in things. And then, right, are people going to, what's the appeal of urban living when your assets are tied to this area which is dense and can be destroyed, right? You'll have companies within a month or two which will start to sell things, not only security things, but ways to quickly take inventory from your property into a secured location, right? That'll be a business in 30 days. Someone will have that of saying, we can be at your location in 60 minutes, and almost like a Brinks truck, we'll take out the things you prioritize. We'll have it. We'll drive to this location, and then we'll be responsible for the content.
Yeah, we'll fortify it.
And part of this is this whole psychology of this would be then to take these assets away, which also would decrease the likelihood of people breaking into, like the first place in Madison that was broken into was a jewelry store, and all of the jewelry was taken. So I think I think some of these things, but I want to, I'm trying to get at some of the deep root stuff, and I think like the beat officer, more civilians involved, maybe in patrolling your. When COVID hit, my neighbors and I talked about, hey, what if we have to secure our own neighborhood because our police force is ill and they're self-quarantining? Like, what if we have to respond if somebody gets hurt or there's a car accident? I mean, we talked about things like that, and I actually felt confident that we'd be able to cobble some. Again, systems develop, right? We know on 9/11, the harbor rescue. So these types of things, but yeah, I think the whole appeal of urban living is John. I mean, you know this.
It's going up in flames.
It has to be a liability. I mean, Juan had it earlier in the chat room of saying, he was really nervous for his area in San Francisco. because if you're there, your vehicle's there, your house is there, your other things. And again, it's just the more dense populations, of course, are going to be the areas where people are going to congregate to. So what does that mean for real estate? Are we going to see these communities like a Baltimore, like a Detroit? Are they going to start losing population to the suburban areas? Are we going to? I would say we're going to see a population increase in South Dakota. Aaron Clary called me up maybe a month ago. He calls me up and he's like, "Hey Dave, are you still serious about buying like real estate? Because like there's a spot.
I got a bridge I want to tell you.
I can hook you up with my real estate." He's like, got me on the spot. I'm like, I don't know, not this moment. Here, check it.
Watch him going back into
picture of it. You bought it. When you open the picture, you instantly bought it. Congratulations. But no, he called me and he said he's thinking there's going to be this was, again, a month ago. So I think that is North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming are going to have an appeal to people that they didn't have an appeal to before.
But or anywhere with low cost of living, I can see that happening. Because think about it. Why do people like to live in big cities? I mean, some people will do it just like the hustle and bustle, but a lot of people do it is because of the jobs and the economic opportunities. Like you can get a high paying job, and because you have to commute, you have to be close to the city. But what happens if people can work remotely and they can live anywhere? Or maybe I'd be fine with the middle. It's like, if you want to work remotely for us, you have to live in our state.
Nick, I totally agree with everything you're saying, but I gotta let Doc finish his point because I gotta hear the end of it.
I just wanted to add to that real quick.
No, Nick, I agree. I totally agree with that. You're so totally, but
not to mention the human aspect of that as well. People are still social creatures, believe it or not. Right. So that's going to play a factor. Sorry, Doc, please continue.
No. And I think people will be social, but yeah. So this whole thing that we were rapidly moving toward urbanization. And saying, hey, don't have a vehicle. We can get you around public transit. Well, COVID shut a lot of that down. And now we've also seen, public transit shut down in these cities completely because it's dangerous. These things can be taken over. They can be set on fire. People can be hurt or killed. So this whole appeal of urban, I think will shift. I think the beat cop part will shift. I think what people keep in inventory, and you're going to see these little networks sprout up, is kind of this defensive posture. Not just the buildings will have these things like in the bigger cities, New York, where you pull it down and it's the gate in front of the place, or San Francisco.
The purge.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have those in a Des Moines or a Madison or stuff, but I do think it is going to restructure how people keep stock in hand or very limited stock. But if I'm trying to get to really the sociological and the cultural things, and I mean, so where this kind of protest and vandalism, looting had happened in Madison was about a block away from UW Madison, where that complex starts. And there's a story I want to tell. So when I was doing my doctoral program at UW Madison, it was late at night, maybe like 11 o'clock, and I was at the 6th floor Memorial Library, which if I was there today, I'd be overlooking all of this stuff happening. like that's how close it is. And I was doing a research paper, like a 40-some page paper with two other ladies.
This is back when he actually had to use a typewriter.
Yeah.
Sorry, keep going.
No.
What is that?
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So Desiree and Sheltrice. Okay. So we were all working together. Now, here's the part of this, right? So it's like 11 o'clock. We've been doing this paper for a long time, and they're like, we should get something to eat. But like, you couldn't have anything delivered to the library. It was
no food in the library. The bugs.
Right. It wasn't allowed. But they said to me, if you order it and go down and get it, it'll be all right. And I'm like, why? Because like I'm older, and they're like, no, because you're white, and both of them are black.
Holy shit!
No, this is true. And actually, I have a photo of that session because we had so much.
Fucking way.
But it was a point that was actually right on, right? Because if either of them ordered this and they would have gone down, this was 10 years ago, they would have said, no, you can't pick food up or whatever. So I'm like, really? And maybe I was just, naive and whatever, but so we ordered, I went down, I paid, got the bag, kind of looked at the person at the
Am I being punked? Is it
at the
hidden cameras?
at the card catalog, am I going to be like, are they going to confront me? Hey, sir, you can't have this, or you can't.
It ends up on a list.
It's obviously, Chinese food because the guy brings it in and it's got all of the stuff. And I go to the elevator and go up and we eat. But it was one of these things of I mean, there are things like that on a more, and it's not just people of color, but I mean, just in general, how we treat people, younger, older, different things in society, different positions. How do we treat essential workers? Who's essential? Who's not? All of these things have kind of come to this really deep sociological discussion. And I think essential worker probably works into this too. I mean, so it
goes back to what John Stowe said before. He says tribalism. I have my own thoughts on this, but we are going to have our own in-group preferences. It doesn't matter which race. It doesn't matter which gender. It doesn't matter which socioeconomic place you're in. There's always going to be some in-group preference. I can say this whole group has its own in-group preference as opposed to everybody else that's outside wearing masks, is freaked out, or is protesting or whatever.
Right.
We're always going to have an in-group preference.
To Bacon's point, I just want to say that it's like, I never said tribalism was good or bad. I just said it was a reality.
It's the natural consequence of how our psychology works.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the point with that library story is saying, the fact that there couldn't be food and we're responsible adults and you couldn't have some process for everybody was what kind of made that, it made sense. Like there should have been food allowed for adults who are studying there in a study room. And I mean, so there were just some big things with this, but I remember that it struck me there. I'm like, I thought it was because I was older, right? I thought that was the reason they'd have me go down, because
that'd be ageism.
It's ageism. I've got that going toward me. They're not going to mess with the old guy who needs his
well, you were the grad student, they were the undergrads.
But we were all on this. But yeah. So I think I've kind of put those points those points out there. I'd like to, and I'm going to kind of write about that too. Is this is a phenomenal thing for me to document right now and go back on this podcast, stuff like this too, because these two concurrent events happening in chaos. How do we unfold these, and then what comes out of it that's attributed to one or the other or both? Like working remotely. And so, hey, John, how about you?
Yeah, let's get your take before you have to go to bed here.
Yeah, well,
since you asked the question.
Yeah, I think I'm the oldest person here, so I'm overdue for my nap. So
you're Aaron and Clary.
Thank you for all you young guys indulging me. Mine's a little bit more nuanced.
All right.
I think Bacon touched on this about tribalism. I do believe that the modern world is kind of an expression of that. And I think that this technology that, Bacon was talking about how you can do more things remotely will further lead to the atomization of people, where they are less invested in their local social network. And I believe there was a very liberal sociologist that actually hid his research for a while, and David may know the details on this, because he didn't want to admit to the fact that diversity actually led to a decline in social cohesion, was I think the sociological phrase that they actually use for this. And I believe that yes, I think that I know for myself, I'm not going to get too involved in this, because to be honest, I've given this quite a bit of thought, so I'm not going to get too far involved in it, but I will just say that. But I also just want to say that thank you so much to Nick and Bacon, and of course to Dave for having this show. And I think it's good, but I also think I just want to I don't want us to be gloom. I don't want it to be gloom and doom. I think that it's very important, especially for content creators and people who are guests on those who are content creators, to be beacons of hope and help. And so let's not give in to despair, and let us do whatever little bit we can to I'm not trying to say the kumbaya BS platitude, BS, but
well, look, that's why we're here. That's why we're doing this, know. fine. We're going to talk about things that are good, bad. That doesn't mean that everything is lost. That's the reason we're speaking.
This has been an intellectual
Sorry to interrupt
discussion.
You, but go ahead.
Yeah, no,
3.5 hours.
This has been an intellectual discussion. If someone was to, listen to it and do what's called coding and kind of take out themes and stuff, I think there's a lot of great content here at a very high intellectual level. That's honestly, guys, that's why I love doing the show when I have guests on, like all of you, because for me, this feeds my mind. And I'm not sitting there talking about, who wore, whatever outfit to the, premiere last night, or what'd you think about this on the Emmys and this, and I'm bachelor. I'm just like, Jesus.
Look at Gaines Smithy's latest. You got it up there already.
I want to have
everyone have a split in apocalypse.
I want to have an intellectual. I want to have parts of my life that get very, intellectually fulfilled. Through people that can interact at that wavelength, and Aaron talks about that a lot too. Definitely, guys, I appreciate that you put this chunk of time out. This wasn't supposed to happen, right? Bacon got a hold of me after I got banned on Twitter.
Sorry about that, Dave.
We'll get you back on. I'll make sure of it.
Don't worry, it's just a temporary. What was it called? Like a TAZ, temporary automation zone. In this temporary automation zone, everybody's problems switched. Once this goes away,
tried to shut me down while the show's going on.
That's how you know you're bombing the right target.
It's so funny. Whatever algorithm. In the context of I'm trying to provide really good stuff, right? Like I'm trying to do good things.
One of the nicest. No offense, Dave.
Right?
But, you were one of the most soy. I'm sorry. You were like one of the most gentle people I know, and he banned you. I'm sorry. I'm laughing.
Most PG-13 person here. That even includes Nick Shoelander, for fuck's sake.
I'm like, what did I do? Objectively, I'm like, what did I? It's one of these things of this hyper control of this narrative. Whoever is trying to do this, but yeah. So anyway, yeah. So let's plug our own, style.
Well, let's let John still finish his vision of 2 years from now. Here.
No, I'm sorry. I feel like I got Dave in enough trouble as it is, and I've said my piece on that. But thank you, Bacon. I'm all good. And just quickly to plug my stuff, I'll just say John_Steel99 on Twitter, and you can find all my stuff there. Again.
All right.
Good. How about Bacon?
What are you asking me?
Yeah. Your stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You can go to thegoddamnbacon.com. That is where I have I have all of my stuff there. You can find me on Instagram at thegoddamnbacon. Backup channel, Bacon Comments. That's also the same handle I have on Twitter. It is Bacon Comments. Spelled exactly the way it sounds.
Okay, our good friend Nick Shoelander.
All right. So you can find me at my YouTube channel, which is just my name, Nick Shoelander. Or if you're interested in my marketing services,
want to spell it?
Fine. Nick at Dismore's IG. Really, Bacon?
Bacon.
But yeah, if you want to learn about my marketing services or maybe hire me, you can reach out. You can reach out at nickshoelander.com. So that's Nick spelled the usual way. My last name is SCHULANER.
Okay, good.
You see why I asked that now?
Yeah.
I want to make sure people go to your page, man.
No.
I get you.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. It was an honor to be on the show with all of you.
It was an honor to finally talk to you for once, man.
All right, yeah.
I'm glad I got to talk to you.
Yeah, John, I always appreciate, when you do shows. I know you don't do a lot of shows, but your content, I love consuming it. I just appreciate so much what you do. And yeah, guys, thanks for making the time. Again, this is Face Validity. We had a number of people coming in and out of this live stream. This is good stuff. Be the good people that you are, your locus of control. And I meant that velocity of information. Say I observed, be the people, be that person that people are like, when John
Watching this
speaks,
shit happen in real time.
he says things. He's got really go, Nick and things like that. I mean, so yeah, I'm blessed to have friends like you. So appreciate it. We'll do this. We'll do
The
this
feeling's
again.
mutual. The feeling is mutual.
Hey, it's trending on Twitter. Free Dave's Twitter.
Free to. Oh no! No way!
I'm going to retweet that before I go to
58,000
bed,
tweets in the last minute.
which is in 5 minutes. Anyway, gentlemen, thank you so much. It was a pleasure and honor to be on the same panel the same day as all of you. Good night and the best. And keep in touch, by the way. DM me. Peace out.
We will.
Will do.
I will do.
Yeah. Bacon, check your Instagram messages. I sent you something.